to Bad Puns and Machine Guns, the podcast where we watch and discuss every Arnold Schwarzenegger movie one at a time, and maybe the occasional surprise as well. I'm Kevin Keane.
And I'm Mike Olson, and today we'll be discussing Eraser, released by Warner Brothers on June 21st, 1996, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, James Caan, Vanessa Williams, James Coburn, James Cromwell, Danny Nucci, and Robert Pastorelli. Written by Tony Puryear and Waylon Green, directed by Charles Russell.
3 badass James C's in this movie.
Yes.
It's kind of funny when I wrote the credits out. James Caan, James Coburn, James Cromwell. 3 tough old dudes.
Tough old dudes with varying screen times, from very little to a lot.
Yeah, well, this is actually pretty early in James Cromwell's career, even though he was pretty old. But it just cracked me up. It's like, did they just cast this out of the phone book? Just open it to the C's.
Up
right.
to C's. And we want just James. That's all we want. We don't give me anything else.
Yeah, Eraser. This is one of those movies that, and we were just talking about it before the show, you know, we had both seen, but you know, as teenagers, but I doubt I've watched it since, and you said you hadn't seen it since, right?
No, I don't remember having seen it since, and this is some of the reason I think you said on the last show why you selected it is to get not only an action movie, but one that was a financial success, and it was a financial success, but it's not one that's really memorable for anything, I think, other than maybe a couple of CGI scenes and the fact that it was kind of the last financial success that he had outside of some additional Terminator movies.
I didn't even realize it was a financial success. I picked it mostly just because it was an action movie, like in the style of an Arnold action movie.
Right.
Know, but
yeah, because I think you had mentioned that Collateral Damage, really isn't, and End of Days really isn't. So yeah, his career definitely took a different turn after this movie.
It's funny because Collateral Damage is I think it was filmed before 9/11, but it feels like such a post 9/11 movie. Whereas this, it's kind of I definitely had a note somewhere of just like I just wrote pre 9/11 movies are adorable. Because the whole thing, this movie is about an arms deal, and it's like, and we'll get into the details, but just the in broad strokes, it just made me laugh so much. This idea that these 1,000 railguns, if these 1,000 railguns get offshore, it'll be a whole new era in global terrorism.
Yes,
it's just like pre 9/11 movies, but their idea of terrorism is just adorable.
Yes. Adorable is an interesting choice, but
you know what I mean.
I completely understand what you mean.
not to diminish the impact of terrorism, but just the idea that's what. Oh no, these railguns.
Yes, that's what's going to make or break the face of terrorism.
It's such a strange movie. I mean, in some ways, it's a classic Arnold action movie. It's kind of It's kind of like a classic Arnold action movie, like Commando, kind of mixed with. I don't know, like Clear and Present Danger or something, like some kind of
a little bit, because you have the testimony on Capitol Hill. I mean, you don't actually have the testimony, but you have hearings. So yeah, it does have a little bit of Jack Ryan to it. Yeah, and maybe that was intentional, because I mean, you've got some of the success of the Harrison Ford movies around that time, a little bit before. So maybe they were trying to be too many things at once.
I think Clear and Present Danger would have been the previous year. I think it was 95.
I think you're right. Yeah,
but
Patriot Games like 2 years before that.
But it is kind of, and it's an awkward fit. It does kind of feel like, well, these kind of political thriller, like with a hint of action. Like those aren't action movies really. Well, Patriot Games sort of is.
Yeah, but also it doesn't really fit Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No.
Harrison Ford, yes, it completely fits.
Well, it's interesting because I had read in some trivia that the screenplay was originally written to be a vehicle for Robert De Niro.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, which I don't know if it would have been as action-packed. I doubt it. But
well, around that time, I mean, I don't know if it was 96, but he did do Ronin, which was, I mean, that clearly is an action movie, so maybe that was kind of what he was in. And he had Heat in 95, so maybe it could have been interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you could see a version of this that's has fewer explosions,
right.
is more like low key and realistic.
So this one opens with the credits, and it's I felt in some ways it was almost when I the first time I watched it, I did it twice. I thought because there were at least 1 or 2 scenes I remembered being in the movie. I'm like, oh, maybe this is kind of like a Bond opening. Where in Bond openings you get silhouettes of the actual action that's going to take place in the movie.
Yeah.
But then when I watched it the second time, there wasn't as much. The one thing that I did note was the the cheap mail order piece of crap.
Yeah.
does get front and center reference, so I was glad to see that.
I think it's the first shot of the movie is him putting that knife into his belt buckle.
It could, I don't remember if it was the first one, but it was the first one that I remember. I'm like, oh yeah, I know that's in this movie.
I think I know the answer to this question, but better or worse belt buckle than Last Action Hero?
Oh,
we're going to rank our belt buckles.
If we're ranking the belt buckles, it's not even close to Last Action Hero.
I agree.
Not even close. No, nor is the opening to this, a tenth of the opening to Last Action Hero.
Oh, yeah, you're correct. But I just think it's funny that like 90s action movies for some reason were very belt buckle heavy.
Yes,
they're just belt buckle focused.
You had to cowboy up apparently in the mid to late 90s.
Well, the Last Action Hero one was very cowboy, but this one is just a really dumpy square.
Yes.
He's got a knife hidden in it. But,
yes, it's utilitarian.
Otherwise, yeah, this movie is very utilitarian. I think that's a really apt word to choose. Like everything, like all the cars he's driving, I made a lot of notes of just like he's driving a station wagon at one point, and then just a cargo van, and then he's driving a tow truck. He's just
you're right. There isn't. I didn't think about this. I referenced how it was kind of like a Bond opening, or I thought it was in my first viewing. There's no glamour for John Kruger. That is for absolute sure. No glamour in this movie whatsoever.
Utilitarian is a great word. He's a very utilitarian action hero.
If he needs a body at the morgue, he'll go get a couple of bodies at the morgue.
Right. So yeah, John Kruger. What's your judgment of this name and whether or not it fits Arnold?
I like the connection to Stay Hungry that we had Freddy Krueger, or at least the actor who played Freddy Krueger in the last one, and we got John Kruger in this one.
I didn't make that connection.
He's got a lot of Johns, but Kruger isn't as Anglo as some of his other character names.
Yeah, it's a mix. They actually did make a nod to
his accent.
It's a little bit Germanic, Kruger. But this is the third John we've had so far.
Yes,
if you count Jack Slater, which I assume.
I of course count Jack Slater.
Right.
I'm still waiting for this podcast to really catch fire and how they would realize their mistake and not remaking or making, I should say, Jack Slater movies.
Yeah. So there's this montage of him suiting up. He looks like he's about to commit a home invasion. He's just all dressed in, it's kind of ninja-ish, his outfit.
Well, that's exactly what I said. Apparently this movie taught me that marshals dress like ninjas because he acts like a ninja in a couple of scenes in this movie, and this one in particular, he starts off dressed like one.
Yeah, we should note the ninja moves and the ninja moments, because there's one very early, because the movie opens at this house where a bunch of mob guys are beating up
Pastorelli.
Johnny,
yes.
Yeah. Johnny Pastorelli, that's the character's name?
Robert Pastorelli. Johnny is the character's name, the mobster. I don't know if I don't remember getting his last name. I know it's in the credits, but I don't know. I don't remember actually seeing it or hearing it.
There's a lot of that where they only use first names. We'll get to it. I have a note about James Caan's character later about his last name.
So yes, Johnny has run afoul of his mob cohorts, and some guys have been sent to kill Johnny.
And That's Amore is playing on a radio somewhere, just in case you weren't sure what ethnicity these guys are.
You weren't sure what mob that they were part of.
Yeah. So then the door mysteriously opens, a guy goes out to investigate, and there's our first ninja move.
The first ninja move, which I have, is I don't understand, because when you see the exterior of that house, it's not a Tudor house, but the front roof is not a flat roof, so I don't understand how he pulled that ninja move off.
Yeah, it's got to be a precarious. You don't see you only see his hands come down, and he kind of garrotes that guy, but he strangles him. But he must be hanging on very precariously up there. I can't even imagine what kind of he's probably wrapped in a pretzel, trying to just hold on for dear life.
Yeah, and that's just one of those things that I don't understand. If you're going to have this ninja move, is it really that hard to find a house, as your establishing shot that has a flat roof in front? I don't think it is, but whatever. I mean,
this is just an indication. There are a lot of moments in this movie, and again, let's stop, where he's just magic. Yeah. John Kruger he just disappears without explanation. He appears without explanation.
Sometimes he'll make sewer grates appear out of thin air that don't exist.
Right, and whatever. We'll get to the specific moments, but that's just par for the course of this movie. It's just establishing he's such an amazing special ops guy that he can cling to the slantest of roofs, and he can just do whatever.
Which is interesting that they have that he is such a great operator, when from anything you can tell in the movie, he's only been in the Marshal Service. With Caan's character, Rob DeGuerin or something like that. I know you said you'll have a note as his last name. They've at least established he was in the CIA. He's done other stuff in his career. I found it interesting that he's been a U.S. Marshal his entire career, and he's this great operator.
Yeah, well, they have some kind of what do they call it? It's like some of the secret forces division or something like that. It's like, thank God for
special operations.
So yeah, I haven't got a note that somewhere. Is it special operations?
It's something like that. They still have certain privileges.
The idea that it's this secret ops within the Marshal Service, like of all the, they should have just made him in the CIA. Like they should have just said, why is he a marshal? Like the idea. I mean, I get the idea that this whole thing revolves around witness protection. Yeah,
and he's basically a bodyguard in this movie.
But he's not, because he's doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
He's doing all kinds of other crazy stuff. But then again, the Marshals, it's interesting because you do have a Marshal-focused movie, not this year, but the next year, Con Air. I've got that in my notes for some discussion purposes. So the reason I guess I say it's interesting is that, a Marshal, you think of two things: transporting prisoners,
right?
Either The Fugitive or Con Air, or auctioning off, seized property. And neither one of those necessarily, they had either already been done relatively recently in terms of The Fugitive to, pretty good acclaim, or seized property really isn't all that interesting, right?
Yeah, I don't think you can build an action movie around
you can't build an Arnold movie around that.
Yeah, so he sneaks in and kills another guy with the freezer. He snaps the guy's neck in the freezer.
Yes, the guy he was, of course, scrounging around for some food.
Yeah, well, I think he was getting ice because the mob boss broke his hand.
But he gets himself a chicken.
He does get himself a chicken wing. You're right. I forgot about that. But it's fortunate that Arnold didn't spout an ice-related pun here, because I'm sure, because the following year was Batman and Robin, and I'm sure
he could have warmed up, got himself ready.
Well, he could have wasted one. He could have been, this way he didn't. He still had all those chambers.
They're all fresh.
Yeah, his bullets were all in the chamber there.
The one thing I wanted to notice is when they're torturing Johnny. For those that may or may not be watching this, I didn't get the minute and second down, but the guy who has the plastic bag and the pliers, the faces that he makes, it's really bad acting and kind of fun.
Really?
So I made a note of it. On some of these, I did write down the minute, the hour and minute and second. I didn't on this one. It's just more of just check out that guy's face if you do watch it. He clearly must be a stuntman and not an actor, because they're not. Not very believable.
I didn't notice that. Is this guy, or we're watching it muted right now? But
that guy. So he's very emphatic the way he opens the bag, and then just that face that he goes in with the pliers.
Yeah, we're at I don't know, 3:30.
Yeah, 3:36. He's very emphatic the way he opens up the bag to get the tongue, and then the face he makes with the pliers. He clearly is not a trained actor. He is probably a stuntman.
Yeah, well, he's he doesn't have any lines. He's like, I'm going to make sure.
I'm going to ham it up.
Yeah, exactly. Arnold jumps in, he shoots a guy. He kills one guy, and then he shoots the boss right in the leg or something.
Yes,
and ends up strangling him. So there's our first 4 body count right there. We're already up to 4.
So that's what I was going to question. When we're doing a body count, do we count the cadavers? Because Arnold, in the utilitarian station wagon that you have noted, has 2 cadavers that he has brought with him, which I was very disappointed in this scene. Talk about a wasted opportunity. He carries one of them, but he has Johnny, Robert Pastorelli. I was so disappointed. He should have been carrying both of those bodies.
I had that exact same note. Well, not that I wanted him to carry both bodies, but I went like, oh, he's carrying something over his shoulder again. Hooray. Because bodies are heavy.
Yes.
And then completely undermined by Johnny just being like, okay, I'll carry the other one. And he just throws... Yes. Johnny throws the other one over his shoulder. It's like, no.
Johnny should have been, at least if he was going to do it, struggling to, drag it, through the yard. But what I would have wanted, this was an opportunity. Not only is Arnold so strong he can carry a body, both arms are so strong. Such a missed opportunity to just be waltzing through a front yard with 2 bodies over his shoulders.
I agree. It's such a missed opportunity. And then later when he carries the mob guys' bodies back out, where they're actually people and not obviously just half-empty body bags,
right?
He has both of them at the same time, and actually, in real life, that's actually impressive. He's carrying 2 human beings, one in each hand, but it's just undermined by the fact that earlier we saw him carry a whole body over his shoulder like it was nothing. So it's just, you're right. They should have had him over both shoulders, both body bags.
If it's there's a few things in this that I think are missed opportunities. This is the first one I had. If I could go back and make this because this movie is as fun as I'd like it to be, for what it is, because it's not great.
No.
You could make it more like Commando or Running Man, one of his, fun ones, and this is one of the ones where I'm like, oh, such a missed opportunity. I wish they would have had him carrying both instead of having Johnny carry one.
Well, that's what I mean. It's kind of getting dragged down by like the political thriller side of it, where it's kind of trying to be realistic. It's just like, no, just be a dumb, fun movie about a U.S. Marshal who is doing things that no U.S. Marshal should ever have to do.
Ever have to or could do.
Right, exactly. Just make it a cartoon, and that's would be so much more fun. And there are moments where it is that, but it's such a weird fit. Like one scene, like different scenes feel like they're coming out of different movies in a lot of cases. But anyway, Johnny, he asks, "Who are you?" Why is it? If Johnny's never met Arnold before, why is Arnold the one handling this? Because
well, I took it as because Johnny has put himself in danger. I took it that the special operations, whatever division that he's in, it seems like he's a one, or maybe there's a couple that do this, and so he's been brought in. He is the eraser, right? So he's the specialist that can come in, do the ninja stuff, and make you disappear.
Okay.
When the heat is really on whatever, particular witness. So that's the reason why his, whoever Johnny was placed with before wasn't the one going to get him.
So maybe is this like a second layer of protection where, if you're a state's witness or whatever and you go into witness protection, let's say you're Johnny and you're in the mob and you're turning states. The mob knows that he's alive somewhere.
Yeah.
But they don't know where he is. So John Kruger is the second layer where not only are you going into protection, he's faking your death.
Yes. I mean, that's what this is one of the things that doesn't make sense, because Johnny still has to testify. So making it look like he's dead, I guess what it does is gets them...
Buys them some time.
Buys them some time, false sense of security. But the way a trial works... The prosecutors have to, give all of the evidence of, there are no surprise witnesses
right.
in a real trial. So it didn't make a lot of sense to me, but, whatever. You got to go with it because this is the backdrop of who the eraser is.
Yeah. So Arnold takes those two bodies he had from the morgue. He puts them in the house.
Yes.
First he pours fake blood on Johnny and his girlfriend. He pulls a Stookie Brothers. And,
yes. Thank you. White Men Can't Jump. Very, very good.
I was waiting for you to make the reference when you didn't.
I forgot about that one. The Polaroid picture and the Stookie Brothers. That is a great one.
But he fakes. So he takes a photograph and then he puts it in one of the mobster's pockets so that everyone will think that Johnny and his girlfriend are dead. And then he swaps the bodies at the morgue.
He swaps the bodies. Here's another issue I have is that he broke one of those guys' necks. So his story of they turned on each other. How does that work, John?
I had this exact same question.
Okay, thank you.
Because you're right. He strangles one guy, he breaks two guys' necks, and then he shoots a guy. Those are the four mobsters that were there.
Yeah.
So 3 out of the 4 had neck injuries. So the idea that he puts 2 of the mobsters out in the lawn and tries to stage it to make it look like they turned on each other. But that doesn't explain the neck injuries.
Right.
And it doesn't explain... Because he forgets about a body too. I don't know if you noticed that, but
that's what my other question is. What the fourth guy? What do you do with that guy?
He forgot about that guy. He carries one body out with him to say I don't even know if he explains why, but
no, I took that as he's trying to get rid of that, to keep his story of they turned on each other. Well, what about the ninja guy that you got on the roof?
Right. Oh, and also I had a note saying the other question was motivation. Why would these guys turn on each other? If the mob sends 4 guys to kill someone who was ratting on them, it's not like there's money. It's not like it's a heist or anything. It's not
a heist where there's drugs or money, something that you could turn on each other for. What?
What's the story that John Kruger is trying to spin here? What?
I'll say this: the mob would probably still be looking for Johnny because the cover story of John Kruger was very, very flimsy and certainly not worth breaking into the morgue and stealing a couple of bodies for.
Yeah, absolutely. They drive off.
So they drive off, and then he makes the getaway car disappear in the lake, or maybe it's a river. And then the only thing I have here is, Johnny says, you got rid of our getaway car, our ride, and they have a van pull up. The smile you've just been erased was clearly for the trailer and was just delivered terribly. I don't know if I just rolled my eyes. It was so bad. And it wasn't Arnold delivering it. It was just some guy. Yeah. And it seemed like it was some guy that was brothers of the director or like was a producer, because it was really, really poorly delivered.
He's a day player. He's just there for the one line.
Yes,
but they should have made that whole thing. You were talking about like making like a Bond opening. That's what they should have. It should have been a cold opening, and they said, "This guy says, smile, you've been erased." Boom,
and then go to the credits.
Eraser. Like, that's the way it should have been. That's not what happened. It's weird that Arnold doesn't give that line. Yeah, so then we cut to DC where John is back to work.
Yeah, I like too that this when they cut to it, it's a pretty long. They just have him walking down the street. And then cut interior to his office. I just found it interesting that they took up, I don't know, probably like 10 seconds of screen time with him just walking down the street.
Yeah. Says a lot about... I still feel like the 90s were not that long ago, even though I know that's not true.
Yeah.
But it's stuff like that where you look at that and go, like, movies have actually changed a lot. Like that, like the pacing, like movies are so breakneck now.
Yep, that does not happen now.
Yeah, you're right. A shot like that where it's just 10 seconds of him walking to work.
It's 10 seconds of him walking to work, and then, when you really think about it, believe it or not, that 10 seconds, that's a lot of filming time, because it's not like they're just doing it once, and you got a crew you got to set up.
Right.
That's an exterior shot. So you've got to block off streets, and I don't know where this was filmed, but whatever. Just for that 10 seconds isn't very efficient, because it's
it's definitely in DC because there's something in the background. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe the Capitol's in the background. So yeah, you're right. I do think it actually was filmed in that part was filmed in DC.
So maybe that's all it was. Is just like we need to establish. Like we spent the money to take a trip to DC to get this establishing shot, because I'm sure like the interior is filmed in LA or something.
Yeah, somewhere else.
So maybe that's all it was. It's just like we spent a lot of money making this trip here, bringing the crew out to get this shot in DC.
We're going to make it worth our while.
Make sure that you get a little bit of time.
So you get a quick throwaway scene here, and it's interesting. You note that today this feels like a 90s movie, because today the breakneck pace they wouldn't have it, but they just have this scene with these two other marshals, them wanting to see if he can spot a fake ID, and of course John Kruger can. And all I could think of was, wow, John McClane and John Kruger have a lot in common, that they're able to spot a high quality fake ID.
So the part that seems strange to me is like, so the U.S. Marshal, they have a division that creates fake IDs for their new. To like place their witnesses. Don't they have access to actual like?
You would think, right? Like the DMV.
Just call the DMV and say, right, this is the Marshal Service.
Yes.
We need an ID.
We need an ID, but I guess maybe that could be a security breach, because then when they created the actual ID, somebody at the real DMV would know that this photo and that name was a fake.
I would have thought there'd be some kind of way they could just send a marshal over and be like, let me use the machine for a minute. I don't know. I guess maybe it makes sense they'd have to do it themselves. So James Caan just wanders into the movie.
Yes.
Not really introduced. It doesn't
not
get
introduced much, and
introduction.
Arnold's there doing some bookkeeping of making dental records switch places.
Yeah, this scene had a lot of over-explaining that drove me crazy. Where James Caan comes in. What's his Robert?
Robert, yeah.
So we don't learn his last name at all until, this is the thing I wanted to say, it's not until he makes his turn and he reveals that he's one of the bad guys. And I think the first time you hear his name is when Arnold's talking to James Coburn.
Beller.
And he's like, DeGuerin, he's the mole. And the first time I'm watching, go like, who's DeGuerin?
Who's DeGuerin?
Because I think he's just called Robert for a long time. But anyway, yeah, Robert DeGuerin is his name.
And maybe they did that now when he's the bad guy, you refer to him by his last name. He's not on a friendly basis anymore. He's only going with his last name rather than his first.
It could be. I mean, it was clear from context who he was talking about. DeGuerin is the mole, but still.
But it would have been better if you would have had, this is Agent or Marshal DeGuerin at least once before, so you knew. Because even with The Fugitive, right, it's Deputy Gerard is how he's introduced in The Fugitive.
Right. Yeah, but these guys are obviously like, they've got a history and they're on a first name basis.
No, I mean, clearly from this scene. And I think the only reason this scene is here is to establish that Caan's character was Kruger's mentor. I mean, I think that's the whole reason this scene is in the movie.
So Robert comes in to explain that he basically over-explains what we've already figured out. Yes, he's swapping dental records. Like, oh, well, with a bit of sleight of hand, this guy becomes a corpse. It's just like, yeah, thanks, movie, we get it. We understand what he's doing.
Yes, we don't need dialogue for that.
And then, later there's another one where he goes, he's like giving him a hard time about the morgue, about stealing bodies from the morgue. And Arnold goes, someone once told me that improvisation is the heart of fieldwork. I think it was you. Yeah, we get it. It was him.
Yes, he's your mentor.
Yeah, you don't have to say, I think it was you. Like, this movie is constantly doing that, of just insulting your intelligence, of just, it goes one line of dialogue too far.
Too far, multiple times.
I think it was you. It's like, yeah, we know. We can see from the context it was him. That stuff drives me crazy. Well, this is where we learn he's in Shadow Ops. That's what it is.
Shadow Ops, thank you, yes.
Shadow Ops still has its privileges.
Still has his privileges. And then he's sent in to meet James Coburn playing... his last name's Beller. I don't remember his first name.
I'm not sure if we even learn it. It's just...
Probably do, or it's in the credits. But either way, Beller is... he's in charge of the Marshal Service, or at least the D.C. Division of the Marshal Service.
Yeah, it's funny because I definitely I know for a fact that the first time I saw this movie as a teenager, I didn't know who James Caan was. I didn't know who James Coburn was. James Cromwell wasn't really famous yet. I think he had done Babe before this, but
yes.
I hadn't seen that.
Of them, I didn't really know Coburn, but I knew Caan only because of The Godfather and being a huge guy. And that's the only. It's not that he hadn't done other stuff that I might have even seen, but all I saw was Sonny Corleone.
I mean, I figured the idea watching it in 2015. I figured at the very least you would get some enjoyment out of James Caan being in this movie, being the Godfather fan that you are. But now, I have become. I don't know if I'd say a huge fan of James Coburn, but he's in The Magnificent Seven. He's in because you're much more of like a 70s cinema guy. You love 70s movies. I like going back to like 60s, 50s, 40s. Like Magnificent Seven. He's in The Great Escape. And he's in the Flint movies, which I don't know if you've seen any of those, but they're crazy movies.
Was he? There's another one that I thought he was in. I didn't look it up. That I know is one of your favorites. Is he in Maverick?
He is in Maverick.
Okay, and that's what I thought when I saw James Coburn. I'm like, oh, he's going to talk about Maverick because Maverick is one of the movies that I know that you. And that's got a great cast. I mean, that's got a great cast all around. I couldn't remember if it was only the other James that's in that.
Yeah, James Garner.
James Garner. I couldn't remember. Is it only James Garner? But I'm like, no, I think Coburn's got a small role in that movie.
Yeah, they're both great in it. James Coburn in Maverick has a line that I will occasionally quote, if only in my head, where he and James Garner have kind of a showdown, and he ends up with like a gun pointed at James Garner, and he goes, "And that, as they say, is that."
I can completely envision that in James Coburn.
He says it in the most James Coburn way. Yeah. Like, he's got a great cadence. Like I think that just the way he speaks and he's got that gravelly voice and just he's this gruff dude. And James Coburn is great. And he's pretty good in this movie. He doesn't have a lot to do.
There's not a lot, but he's one of the highlights, I think, of this movie.
But it's funny just thinking back of a time when I would have never known who any of these people were. And now watching it, it's weird to see a guy like James Coburn sharing the screen with Arnold.
Yeah.
Because like Arnold almost exists in this weird bubble, at least for me. I don't know about you, but like this, and then I had watched True Lies a few years ago, and he's on, Charlton Heston's in that movie, and it's just like, this is weird. Like, I know in the 90s when I watched these movies, I didn't think twice, because I don't know who these old guys are. But now, it's just like, it's Arnold and James Coburn in a scene together. It is kind of strange.
No, you're right, because especially, we found how many of these actors, granted not on the main stage, but kind of the action guys, carry over, whether it's Sven or it was Professor Toru Tanaka. It is. Arnold was almost in kind of his own little bubble, and it was weird when somebody from, I don't know, we'll call it the drama, side of Hollywood. And I don't think it's only with Arnold. I'd say it would be the same thing, too, if you're watching a Snipes action movie or a Van Damme. If, all of a sudden... I don't know, Gregory Peck. I know that's
right. But that's kind of what it feels like.
That's kind of what it is, right? It's like, oh my, what is Gregory Peck doing in Double Team with Jean-Claude Van Damme and Dennis Rodman? Not that Gregory Peck's in that, but I think that would be the analogy. That would be is like a Gregory Peck all of a sudden. What is going on here?
No, that would be a more extreme case, but very much, you're right. That's exactly what it feels like. Just like this person doesn't belong in this movie.
But for that said, James Coburn probably is one of the highlights, even though he doesn't have much time. I did like him in this.
Oh, and he's not phoning it in.
No,
like he doesn't have a lot to do, but he's
earning his money.
He absolutely is.
So really, the whole scene is Arnold gets the assignment that we learn that somebody is selling arms for the Cyrez, I think is the name of this fictitious, I guess, defense contractor is what they do. It seems like they've got a whole bunch of stuff going on, but I think it's supposed to just be a defense contractor.
Yeah.
And that somebody is going to, turn state's evidence and testify against them and needs protection.
Yeah, so I don't know if we should get into this now or if we should save it, but the name Cyrez is a terrible name for, it's obviously supposed to be just like an evil corporation.
Yeah.
But there's a story behind this where it was originally named Cyrex, which is a little better, not much better. And there's a company that makes computer chips called Cyrix.
Yeah.
and they threatened to sue them. And this is after the movie had been filmed.
Wow.
And so what ended up happening is first of all, they'd go back and redub everyone's dialogue
into Cyrex.
Change from Cyrex to Cyrez.
Cyrex is better, by the way.
It's better, but not much. They're both silly. Even Cyrex, it rolls off the tongue better for sure. But the funny thing is, they had to go back and CGI all the signs and everything from Cyrex to Cyrez.
I didn't realize that.
And they do a pretty good job of it. It's not noticeable, really, except if you're looking for it. The one place where it's most noticeable, anytime you see a security guard, it says Cyrez on their shirt. Because they're all constantly moving around, and
that's much harder to do than a stationary sign. Sure.
Yeah, you can literally see the animator moving the thing around on their chest. It's pretty noticeable when you're looking for it.
But, thank you for that. That one was completely lost on me. I did not realize that.
I don't think the lawyers did their job on this movie.
James Coburn didn't phone it in, but they did.
Yeah, maybe they should have cleared that name before they filmed the whole movie. So we learned some players on Washington, some bigwigs, could be burned by this. It's a scandal.
It's a looming scandal, or more pressure and more heat, if you will, than maybe some of the other jobs. Like the Johnny was the run of the. It was just the mob. No big deal. Standard operating procedure. This is a bigger deal than what John Kruger normally would deal with.
Yeah, and so now that I actually think about it, considering the discussion we just had, they're jumping right to faking her death in this one. They're not even gonna. They're not doing the first layer.
No, the first wave, just forget about it.
They're bringing in the eraser right from the jump. Right from
the word go. So you cut to the establishment of Vanessa Williams as Lee.
Yep.
And she's walking another walking scene, but I think this one makes more sense because it's within Cyrez, which what I had is this place is so futuristic and high tech that there's a constant running, welcome to the Cyrez Corporation.
Yep.
And I mean, while in movies in RoboCop, I find it endearing of, OCP kind of being that way. It just did not feel right at all. And I found it laughable. That they don't have this, there's a security desk, but there's nowhere where you have to scan or wave an ID that keeps you from entering the elevator bank. So it's supposed to be, high security, but all there is there's just a desk there. You can just walk in.
I mean, literally, I think my office has better security.
Yes, mine does too. Now, granted, it is 2015,
right.
But I just found it annoying that it's so high tech that you would have this constant running loop of. Could you imagine being a security guard in that place?
Just working there in general. Every time you're in the lobby, you got to listen to this voice looping over and over. Yes. Well, also, they're a security contractor. They make weapons. How many visitors do you think they get? Well, they have to have this welcome message over the PA.
You're right. Now that I think about it, you really shouldn't have many because just about everybody that would go into that building needs to have some sort of clearance if you're truly a defense contractor.
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing where I think they're just trying to make it look, because the place looks like a Bond lair. It looks it looks nefarious, even from the way the building. It's got a weird dome on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're just.
It looks like an evil lair, right?
Yeah, they're just trying to. In real life, these places I think would be very dull. Like defense contractors' offices, it would not be.
No, it's not going to be like Blofeld's volcano, right? It's not going to look like. It's going to be a nondescript office building in D.C. I mean, they do have it, in the right place, and they're actually defense contractors are spread out throughout the country somewhat strategically.
Yeah.
Those contractors make sure that they build and have stuff in almost every state so that almost any program can't ever get sufficient congressional support to be killed because constituents in every state would lose jobs.
Pretty much every congressional district
has some sort of defense contract.
Congressman is going to fight for that defense contract.
Exactly. But anyway, you're right. It would not look like something that a Bond villain would have. It's going to look like a nondescript office building.
But again, it's the kind of thing we were talking about where this movie is caught between worlds where if they were going to do that, just make it over the top, put everyone in jumpsuits, make it that kind of a thing.
I'd like it. Like Moonraker jumpsuits.
Yeah, exactly. Make it just go full evil.
Yes. Don't try and make it believable. Just just dive right in, and it's going to be cartoonish.
This movie's just realistic enough to make you question it. Whereas if they just said we don't care, then you wouldn't even
you just
take
go
it for
what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so the FBI is sending her in. She's got a giant brooch with a camera in it. It reminded me of Homer's hat with the camera in it.
There appears to be a bee in your bonnet. Oh, bee! The only thing on the FBI guys that I noticed was John Slattery, which I don't know what you know him from. I did not remember him being. I saw in the credits. I'm like, oh wow. He was not a name I knew until Mad Men,
right.
And I absolutely Roger Sterling is maybe the best part of that show. So it was. You said adorable. I thought it was kind of cute to see John Slattery in something else, and that really is the only thing I had in my notes. He doesn't have a ton of stuff in this, but.
Oh yeah, I noticed him, but I'm not the Mad Men fan that you are. So
yeah.
I mean, I definitely and Marvel fans would know him as the older. What's Tony Stark's dad's name? John Stark?
No.
Ted Stark? Whatever.
Man, Stark. Yeah, Stark.
Tony Stark's father.
It'll come to me, but I'm
Roger.
It's not Roger Stark.
I don't know. Yeah, that's the funny thing.
Howard. It's Howard Stark.
Yes, Howard Stark. It's funny how people younger than us are so into those movies. I'm sure anyone who's in their 20s is just
shaking their fist. Exactly. Morons! How do you not know it's Howard Stark?
We don't care. Marvel movies, we don't know. We're here to talk about Arnold Schwarzenegger.
We're here to talk about old 80s and 90s action movies. So this is kind of the heist. She has to go get this information for the FBI. The thing that was most confusing to me about this is they talk about, they only have so much time in this shift change. I don't understand why do they have to time it with a shift change?
Yeah, I don't know.
She works there. Just go get it whenever. What does it matter?
It was just a way to artificially add tension, but it was complete, they never even try to justify it with any kind of logical thing. It's just,
this whole scene of, they lose the transmission, it felt forced tension for no logical reason for there to be forced tension.
Well, it's funny because that one guy's just like, oh no, we lost the transmission. They're like, no, we expected this. The guy's freaking out, and then
how do other guys on the team not know what the strategy or what how this mission is supposed to play out?
Yeah, this whole thing is just built up to just artificial tension
for the audience.
Yeah, exactly. And the proof of it is she goes way over her time, and I mean, she does end up getting called up to James Cromwell's office. So
but it's not because there was a new guard or anything. It's
right. Oh, right. Because he sees her on the
right
on the video on the security footage.
So it's totally irrelevant.
She could have spent an hour in there.
Yes, it wouldn't matter.
Yeah, she's called up to James Cromwell's office. What's his
William Donahue?
Donahue. Yeah.
He doesn't get a lot of screen time here, but I did remember it's William Donahue.
Yeah, this is pretty early in his career. Again, like I said earlier, this is his follow up to Babe.
Yes.
So he just has this one scene.
He just has this one scene, but in the next year, I knew Babe was a surprise hit. It wasn't a movie that I was interested in.
I've still never seen it. Yeah.
I think I've seen it, but it's been years. So I didn't know who James Cromwell was, but the next year, still one of my all-time favorites from the 90s, LA Confidential. From then on, I would know who James Cromwell was.
I think within a year or two of this, he was a pretty big star.
Yeah.
This was right on the cusp. Because, Babe was the first salvo of just because he was nominated. Or did he win in an Oscar?
I don't think he won, but he was nominated. And the reason I distinctly remember it is I didn't remember this movie, but his character in terms of who and what he was in LA Confidential is as polar opposite. I know you haven't seen Babe, but you know the premise.
I know that he's just a friendly farmer.
Right. It's as polar opposite as Dudley Smith in LA Confidential.
Yeah.
And then, obviously he's had a pretty robust career, since 97 in LA Confidential.
Well, and also either 96 or 97, somewhere around there, was Star Trek First Contact.
Yes.
He has a pretty big role.
From
Cochran.
And it is right around there. You're right. I can't remember what year, but it's right around there.
I think it might have been 96. It might have been the same year as Eraser. But that's one of my favorite Star Trek movies. I know
it is a very good one.
Yeah. It's so.
And from there he's had a great run and a great career since then.
He has. He's a really good actor.
So Donahue was watching her the whole time. As much as we said how much we like Cromwell and he is a great actor, this was a cartoon villain. I mean, this.
Yeah.
This is not something he probably is proud that's on his resume.
Well, he has a line. It's one of these things where they go one line of dialogue too far, and it's insulting to the audience's intelligence. Or his line is, "This isn't the Red Cross. We make weapons, things that kill people."
There it is. Things that kill. That's what weapons do.
That is the ultimate insult to an audience's intelligence. I don't think you needed that line of dialogue. We make weapons. Okay, we all understand. This movie is full of that stuff. Yeah, and then he pulls a gun, pointed it to Lee.
Yes, and I love this sequence. I don't know if you have anything. At this sequence, there are two things that are just absolutely fantastic. The first is that, yes, it's the fake out. You kind of know, right? Vanessa Williams isn't going to die in the first 15 seconds, of her screen time.
Well, she's not going to die, but I don't know if I would have expected. I've forgotten that this is how James Cromwell goes out.
Oh, well.
Anyway, finish your thought.
He commits suicide, and the two things I notice is, so the window blows out from his committing suicide. An unbelievable amount of pressure must have been in that office because, papers are just whipping up through there like it was an airplane.
Yeah. Well, it's like a space station.
Or a space station. But what's even better is that when Lee then, goes to turn and run, which certainly makes sense, it's a avalanche of people that come running into his office. It's like 30 people were like hovering outside of Donahue's office. Yeah. And why would they all come running in anyway? If I hear gunshots, and I know, in many ways you're right, it was adorable. Unfortunately, there's the world has changed, for the worse. People would not be running towards gunshots inside an office, even in 1996. The world certainly is different of how you would look at that today, but I found it laughable that there were 30 people outside of his office, but they certainly wouldn't be probably running towards gunshots.
I assume he's got security outside.
Isn't
it kind of their job to run in?
Oh, no. The security guy's the first guy in, but if you go and look at it, there are just random, clearly office drones running in. I'm like, why are there so many people? Clearly, the reason they're probably selling to the highest bidder is they have way too much overhead if they have this many office drones that are able to be running into this. But the security, absolutely. But the rest, if you go back and rewatch it, you'll see what I mean. There are way too many running in there.
Okay, I didn't remember that. Just if just general office workers are running in, then you're absolutely right.
Yes.
Yeah, they should not. They should be running away from the gunshots. But yeah, this is body count number 5. I believe our first suicide on the body count, which is
I think you're right. Yeah.
Just to backtrack a little bit, because I do want to read this note. Because Vanessa Williams, she's some scenes she's better than others, but this scene in particular, he points the gun at her before he commits suicide. And let me just read my note word for word. I wrote, Vanessa Williams' frightened acting technique. Open your mouth, curl your upper lip, and breathe heavily. She looks like a snared fish.
A snared fish.
She just kind of goes like, yeah. She's just kind of like, the face she makes, it's no human being in any real situation would make this face. It's terrible acting.
Yeah, and I don't remember her in a ton of stuff. And it's kind of surprising that she was cast. Not that she's necessarily bad or anybody else would have been better.
She's better in other scenes. I think this scene she's really bad. Yeah, because she was a Miss America? Is that
Miss America model? Yeah, she had an accomplished career, and I know she acted in other stuff after this. I don't remember if there was a substantial amount of stuff before, but surprising because this was a pretty big budget movie to have somebody who wasn't a truly established star. But when I also thought about it, the female leads, there aren't a ton in Arnold movies, and a lot of the times, True Lies is an exception, but most of the time, they're not necessarily a huge name when they are in them.
Yeah, and it's. I don't want to be. Maybe it was being too nasty because she's fine in this. I think she does an okay job. No,
but if she looks like a snared fish, she looks like a snared fish.
It's really just that one shot. I'm just like, what is she doing? What does she even think? Does she think that she looks frightened? Because she doesn't.
So she escapes, and what I love is then apparently the FBI, I don't know why they have a getaway van, but they have a getaway van. And here's what I don't understand. They're the FBI. I realize that this is an evil corporation. They're the FBI. Why do they need to be tearing away from the scene?
Right.
You're the FBI.
They are making a getaway, they just stole something.
Like they stole something. No, you're the FBI. You should have SWAT and whatever else if this is if she really was in danger. I just found that whole concept, even in a, as you said, adorable 90s action movie, completely implausible. The FBI does not need to make a getaway. It's the FBI.
They don't act like that. Yeah, it's just these 4 guys. They have a van. And
it acts like they're Keystone Cops, that they're not actually part of the FBI, but they're their own private detectives or something.
Well, this movie definitely has a very dismissive attitude about the FBI.
It's true.
When John shows up and he's just like, "Oh, the FBI, you trusted them and they blew it," or whatever he says. It's just. Yeah, I don't know if it was the writers having an agenda or what.
It shares its disdain for the FBI, much like Die Hard, with the arrogance of the FBI in that, and it looks like we're going to need some more FBI guys, I guess. They're going down in a flaming helicopter.
Yeah, that movie definitely has a point of view about the FBI.
Yes, it does.
But, in a funny way, whereas this is just I'm not really sure what they're saying. It's very muddled. Well, because next is they debrief her.
Yes.
And it's this whole thing of just like, now you need to go into protective custody. And she's like, what? No, I'm not doing that. And again, it's like, didn't you have this conversation
Yeah,
before?
I mean, you should have had the conversation. Probably documents, I'm guessing, too, that you probably have to sign. I don't know. I've never testified in anything like that. But it would seem that you would have this well established.
Yeah. There's no procedures. There's no, just like, I don't know. Let's just send her in with a camera in her lapel.
So the one thing I did notice in this, establishment of, her having to testify, and I wanted to make note of it, is that they're talking about that the weapon sales are high treason, and they have that dialogue. So now I've been able to establish, so if you're building model homes in Iraq, as George Bluth was in Arrested Development, that's light treason. Now I know the spectrum that there is between high treason and light treason. If you're selling weapons to the enemy, that is high treason. Makes sense. If you're just merely building model homes for the enemy, that is light treason.
Okay, so what's in the middle of that spectrum? Between homes and weapons, is it like
so
set of steak knives? That's medium treason.
Yes, that's medium treason. So you've got the full spectrum of treason.
It's funny. Like, I wonder if that's actually a real thing. If there are levels of treason.
I don't think that there is. I just wanted to make sure, being a huge Arrested Development fan, I know you are. I wanted to get a reference to light treason because it was one of my favorite lines of that show.
So Kruger makes a grand entrance. He's got to show up to this meeting late so he can make an entrance.
Yes.
And she refuses his protection, and she just goes home. Meanwhile, so she made 2 copies of this evidence, right? She keeps one.
She kept one for herself, and that's some of the reason her time in the booth, well, not the booth, but the computer ran too long.
Yeah.
That she was in there, is she was making 2 copies.
So she keeps one. She gives the other one to the FBI. The FBI takes it to an evidence locker, and it's hidden in. So I paused it. I wanted to see the CD that it was hidden beneath. So the CD, it's like a mini disc, right? And then they have
a regular mini disc, and then it was a jewel case for an actual CD.
And the CD is Laser Light Digital Masters of Classical Music, Mozart Volume 1. So we get our Mozart reappearance.
Oh wow, Mozart appears in another Arnold movie. He killed Mozart.
Who?
I kill a lot of people.
I just once I saw that it was Mozart, I was like, well, now I have to mention it on the podcast.
I'm glad that you did. The thing from this, though, is the plausibility of the reach that Caan's character has. I can believe that he's got the reach to the CIA, because they do establish that earlier in his career he spent time in the CIA.
Do they, though? They established that his father was in the CIA, and John, what's his name? I keep forgetting his name. I keep wanting to call him Breacher because it's John.
Oh, Kruger. No, Kruger wasn't in the CIA.
No, but he has a line saying, "Oh, you were buddies in the CIA," which implies that James Caan was in the CIA. But I don't know if the movie ever really.
I took it from the implication.
Yeah, it's implicit, but I don't know if they really. They don't establish it very well. That's the thing.
Well, just because it seems like his network of connections or buddies in the CIA is pretty vast, and he's basically the middleman for the arms deal. Right. So from that, I just took that his reach is to the CIA. But now he also has the FBI. I mean, so he's got the marshals, he's got the CIA, and the FBI involved in this.
He's a powerful guy.
Apparently so. That seemed like it was because to try and keep that many mouths happy that you've got to feed from the proceeds from this arms sale, that's a lot of mouths you're feeding.
That's true, and it's fun. We may as well just jump to it now because I have a note later where they learn the details, like the specifics. They learn what's on that disc, and it's a $52 million deal to sell 1,000 rifles. It's like, that's not going to spread around very much.
No,
there's a lot of. This is a pretty big conspiracy.
It's a huge operation.
It's only a $52 million deal. That's not a lot. These guys probably not making whatever that guy's cut. What do you think that guy's cut is in the FBI? Like,
the FBI guy who has the Mozart CD?
Yeah.
He probably got like $10,000.
Yeah, if that. So anyway, but it's funny. He doesn't contact James Caan, though. Obviously, like, this is too early.
Oh, you're right. No, he clearly contacts...
He contacts the undersecretary.
The undersecretary, so you're right. So that wouldn't have been... That was unfair for me to assume that Caan's reach was too wide. Because it's the undersecretary of defense who he contacts.
They're clearly trying to set up like the complex, web of conspiracy going on here. This is before we know that James Caan's a bad guy, so he couldn't have called James Caan. So she goes home. She tries to read the disc. She can't read the disc.
Do you want to cover this? Because
I can tell you want to, so go ahead.
So she tries to read the disc, and somehow Cyrez, not Cyrex, because I don't want to get sued. Cyrez knows this. It's a CD.
Yeah.
She's not connected to a network. And I know that this is this is 96.
Yeah, I both remember what the internet was like in 1996.
Yes, I do believe that Sandra Bullock in the girl, or excuse me, the girl from the bus,
Girl from the bus,
the girl from the bus, the movie The Net did exist, but she hasn't. And we're recording this in 2015. Clearly, the internet took off from there.
No, we're not.
Oh, you're right. Excuse me. It's 2016, the first day of 2016.
Happy New Year. We're
Happy New Year to everyone. We are
Year's.
recording this in 2016. The net clearly has grown and is established. But I'm pretty sure that still, if I put a CD into my computer, assuming that you're still using a computer, it is not going to notify anybody that it's being used.
See, I can buy in a cartoony way. I can buy that, like, okay, they have some kind of red flags process where it's if you try to read a file, it's going to automatically send a notice. But you're right. The point to be made is there's no way she's connected to the internet or she's online in any way. She just turns on her computer, puts in the disc, and she can't read it. There was no. I mean, you were talking about the sequence of like 10 seconds of Arnold walking. There would have had to have been a 30-second sequence of a modem trying to connect. Like
that actually would have been fun. Actually, to have the
right. Because at least I don't remember the net. I saw it. I haven't seen it since it came out, but I think that they actually at least show that she has to connect.
Yeah, no, they establish it. I mean, to be honest, I mean the net for a movie in the 1990s, because the 90s. And even today, I think they're getting better of what true hacking is, or the Hollywood presentation. I think they're getting better.
Yeah.
But in '95, I think it was kind of plausible. It wasn't the net meaning with Sandra Bullock. This didn't make any sense. And even again, if it was a network drive that she was on at work or something, completely plausible that you would immediately get a notification that file's been touched.
Yeah, absolutely.
And open. But she's
at home.
She's at home on her own computer with a CD-ROM. There's no way that works.
And even if you assume that she you didn't see her dialed in or whatever on her modem, then she immediately goes to her phone and picks up her phone. So, and she can use the phone. So she must have a second line. Just the level of things that would need to be true for this to be plausible is just impossible. They took a shortcut here. Guys, if you were going to take shortcuts, take it of Arnold just walking in D.C., cut some of that out, and use the budget to do more to establish the plausibility of Cyrez knowing that she's accessed the file. And really, now that I think about it, it didn't occur to me until just now, but when you think about the plot, they're already trying to kill her.
Yeah.
Before she reads... The dudes are already outside about to attack her house. So... And it's not like they said, "Oh, she tried to read the disc." The fact that they know that she read the disc affects the plot in no discernible way.
It's irrelevant. They want her dead anyway, so
right.
Why bother? They were going to send the guys to her house anyway. Doesn't matter if she knows what's on it or not.
Well, they're already outside because she calls her reporter friend, and while she's on the phone, we hear laser beams happening off screen.
Ooh, I didn't pick that up.
It's pretty quiet, but you hear, she's just on the phone, "Oh, I have this evidence," and then in the background you just hear and you cut outside, and the two FBI guys are fried. They're in a stakeout, and they just cut back, and they're just smoking.
See, what's funny to me is that in every other usage, there must be a setting on these railguns, because in the other ones, when everybody else is using them, things are blowing up everywhere.
It's true,
but somehow you barely hear it. Because I didn't actually hear it. Thank you. I did not hear the lasers going off, but somehow just the window is broken and the guys are fried. So there must be a setting of turning it, to 11. It's on 11 anytime they're going up against Arnold. Because they know it's Arnold, but for these random two FBI guys, no, we can dial this down to a 2. We don't need it all the way up to 11 for these guys.
Yeah, it's enough to fry their bodies, but not enough to make their car explode.
Yes.
These are experimental weapons. I wonder how hard it is. Oops, we got too high. It's got to be difficult to calibrate.
I think the ones that are out there too are probably the prototypes. Because the prototypes get plugged in, but clearly the ones later, the ones that are being delivered for the shipment, don't have the plug-in, and I don't know if that was...
Oh, I didn't pick up on that.
I didn't know if that was a mistake or it was intentional. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say the ones that are being used right in the scene that we're in are the prototypes, so maybe those have to be plugged in and aren't as portable, whereas opposed to the ones in the arms deal, those are the ones that are fully functional, have their own battery packs or whatever built into them.
Well, I was going to say maybe they're prototypes and maybe they're not as powerful, but then again, we see Daryl get hit in a minute, and it's pretty powerful.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about Daryl? Because there's some scary music, and you think it's just Daryl, her ex-boyfriend. Yeah, well, I'm sure you recognized him, right? We referenced the movie earlier.
I recognize him. I don't even know it. Why don't you cover Daryl.
Okay, so I'm debating whether or not to even go into this because I went down a crazy rabbit hole with this guy.
Please do.
I spent like an hour Googling stuff. It's okay. Where I recognize him from, and you'll know when I say, he's in White Men Can't Jump. He's the security guard, the Jeopardy security guard guy. Yeah.
The security guard who, for Jeopardy and makes Billy Hoyle shoot it. Is it Ghana or is he? No, he's got to shoot for the Sudan.
He thinks he's shooting for Ghana. No, my friend. You are shooting for the Sudan. And a hook shot.
Yes.
So this actor's name is Silk Cozart. Silk spelled C-Y-L-K. So I went to IMDb, found his name. What else has he been in? I clicked it. Yeah, I saw White Men Can't Jump. He's in a few other movies. He was in Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson and a few other things.
Okay.
But while I was looking at his IMDb page, I happened to get a glimpse of his bio, his profile. Let me read his profile.
Okay.
This may or may not be worth it. This may be a long trip for a very small drink of water. Okay. Submitted by Anonymous. With 30 films and more than 20 television shows to his credit, over 75 million viewers in the United States alone have seen Silk Cozart's work. But for Cozart, it is his love of children and helping others less fortunate that led him to Hollywood, and what continues to underscore his reason for being in show business.
What?
Who do you think wrote this?
Submitted by Anonymous.
It's like some David Brent stuff. Like It's just, he's like, I was reading this immediately. I'm going like, this guy obviously wrote his own bio. Okay, let me keep going. Silk Cozart's wide range of talents as an actor, producer, writer, singer, model, and songwriter have made him one of Hollywood's most sought-after artists. That's not true.
I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I think his bibliography says the opposite.
It goes on to describe. It gives us some highlights of his career, and it says, among his other creative pursuits, the multi-talented Cozart is completing his first co-produced music CD, on which he sings lead vocals and has composed 2 original songs. I could not find the CD. I don't think it ever actually came out.
You put an outrageous amount of time in this.
You have no idea. I spent an hour at least. Hold on, let me continue. He is also an active partner and celebrity spokesman for a new innovative manufacturing company, the Original Ball Bag Company.
I want to know what that is.
Whose products are licensed by the NBA, NBA.com, Tommy Hilfiger, and others. So I looked up that website, the Original Ball Bag Company, and this is the description from the ball bag. This is the Original Ball Bag Company. Okay, this is. Please meet the Original Ball Bag Company's founder, Doug Rugg, which is an awesome name.
Yes.
Doug Rugg. So
That's almost as good as Beetroot McKinley.
So Doug Rugg owns this company, and he got Silk Cozart to be his spokesman. The names are amazing. Okay. Please meet the Original Ball Bag Company founder, Doug Rugg, who carried the idea around with him to manufacture and sell his unique bags from a childhood experience. As a child in Orange County, California, there were many sunny days to be out on a basketball court in the summer after school. Each day he would ride his bike to the boys' club to shoot hoops. His mode of transportation, his bike, was great, except when trying to get home with a drink in one hand and a basketball in the other. His problem played out one day as he lost his balance and crashed his bike into a parked car. That memory stayed with him. This the legend of the Original Ball Bag Company. All of this is so overblown. That experience stayed with him, and he knew the answer was in a small carrier for his single basketball that he could use as a backpack or over the shoulder, hands-free bag. That was phrased awkwardly. He conceived the idea for this product as a natural progression from the concept of the backpack. So it's just a backpack.
That was fantastic.
I had this amazing idea for a bag that you can put things in and on your back. Oh, it's so crazy.
When you got a name like Doug Rugg, you can come up with ideas like that.
It reminded me, we're doing a lot of references, what I know we promised not to do, but it reminded me of the Seinfeld, the Man Zero, where Frank tells his story about, like, as the rain blows upon him, I thought there had to be a better way.
Oh, no, it just occurred. It's the Festivus episode. It's, I reached for a doll. Another man reached at the same time.
Oh, that's what it was. You're right.
As rain blows upon him, I thought there must be a better way.
Anyway, I don't want to make fun of this guy. I mean, I did, but I'm sure he's a nice guy. I don't want, whatever. But he clearly wrote his own bio.
He was. There's a little puffery there going on that bio.
Yeah, for sure.
So Daryl is not long for this world. He's clear. I don't know if he was a stalker or what, but he's, I think, broken into. I don't know if he still had a key.
I think it's implied he still had a key. That's the way it seemed, but who knows?
So they have a little bit of a domestic moment here of, Lee doesn't want anything more to do with him. He's enjoying himself, making himself at home, getting some milk.
Right.
And enjoying it. And the railgun is out there, and it's got its scope on him, and he sees a heartbeat. And what I don't understand is it can see this heartbeat, but then a van just pulls up. What do they care if a van is there? Do they care that there's witnesses? No, they're planning on murdering everybody. Just kill the guy in the van, too.
Maybe it just distracted him. I don't know. But you're right that there's no reason. He should just pull the trigger.
Right, he should pull the trigger. No, because the spotter tells him, no, you turn it off. There's a van coming. He doesn't say a van coming, but basically he tells him he needs to turn off. Why? Just take him out.
What cracked me up about that X-ray scope that this gun has is it actually beeps. It makes a lock-on beep, like a missile lock.
Yes.
So it's like a Top Gun, but it's a sniper rifle.
Yeah, it's a sniper rifle with a Top Gun sound.
It's got tone. So Arnold shows up in this van.
Yes.
And he's got a bunch of balloons and a sign on his back that says "Let's party." It cracked me up.
Yes. I did like that. I'm not sure if he stole that. And that was a legitimate, or the marshals, his special group has that van and balloons ready to go at any moment in time.
I didn't think about that. Yeah, where did he steal? Maybe he did steal it.
I'm going to take he stole the van. He's committed a lot of crimes. Actually, he's broken into the morgue. I took it that he stole that van and those balloons.
Well, either he stole it, or the U.S. Marshal Service just has a disguise, some kind of disguise wing, like a costume shop. What do you need? Do you need a delivery guy? Balloons?
Balloons? Yeah, we got that. I think he stole it.
You're probably right. So he rings the bell. He's trying to save her life.
You'd think he'd just kick in the door. Why have the illusion?
Yeah, who knows? But Daryl thinks it's...
Oh, let's see who this is. He thinks it's a gentleman caller.
At first he thinks that, and then when he sees the balloons, I think he thinks that they're balloons sent from a gentleman caller.
Right.
Let me see who's on the card, and those are his last words, and he's just blown away.
he's blown away. Daryl was not long for this world, so add him to the body count.
He's number 8.
Silk, we hardly knew ye. Although we've learned much more about you.
We learned so much more than we needed to about you. So then there's an action sequence. These guys.
Yeah, the only thing this action sequence, I don't know if you noticed, the CGI on the drill bit bomb was really bad.
Yeah, it was.
It was really bad.
It kind of wobbles in a weird physics way where it doesn't look like it.
And just the fact that it was like a Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down in the first place.
That's exactly what it's like. You have pinpointed what I was just trying to say.
Thank you.
Weeble wobbles is exactly right. And so he blows up the house It's weird, these X-ray. They never really make it clear how these X-ray guns, these rail guns, work. Because you see them zooming in and out, and they hide behind the refrigerator, which I guess is because it's lead lined. They can't.
What doesn't make it? That's the thing is why I understand they need to have Arnold and Lee survive, but why can't it can see through everything else? Why can't it see through the refrigerator? Is there some special coating on this refrigerator that it can't see through? It was nonsensical.
I jumped to the conclusion that if these are just X-rays and if it's a lead line, much like Indiana Jones saved by the lead-lined refrigerator.
Yes.
Maybe that's why. I think it was just that there's probably lead in it and the X-rays can't penetrate.
Well, it was extremely lazy, but whatever. So what we get to is he somehow uses a thermostat to ignite, which I'm not sure thermostats do ignite like that, but we'll just take it that it does.
I think those old ones did. They would actually have a spark.
I know there's mercury, but whatever. So let's take it that it does. I had it that there were 3 bad guys, I think, in there that get taken out.
That's exactly right.
What I love from this, though, is he's just hauling away in his van. They make sure that he has destroyed everything in Lee's house, including the mailbox. He just and there's no reason in the shot, too, right? You could just have him peeling out, doesn't matter. But the director wanted, no, we want nothing left from Lee's house, including the mailbox. Arnold, take that out on your drive out.
Yeah, so they get away, and he's very concerned that she's hurt. She's not hurt. He had a nail through the hand, but he seems okay.
Yes, that nail through the hand, too, that really looked like a rubber hand when he pulled that out, by the way, from the refrigerator.
And that's his gun hand. That injury is quickly forgotten. I know he's Arnold Schwarzenegger, but this movie is kind of presenting a world where maybe that injury should be more of an issue than it is.
Well, he takes on an even more serious one a little bit later. I mean, it's forgotten, and it is his shooting hand.
Yeah.
He recovers way too quickly from the damage that he takes in this movie.
Yeah, for sure. He's Arnold. This movie is still treating him like Commando Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes.
He it's basically like if you took Matrix and placed him in a realistic world. That's basically what this movie is doing.
Yes.
He's still like the rules.
He is John Matrix. You're right.
Yeah, the rules of logic still don't apply to Arnold. So,
but really, that entire van scene, other than "Are you hurt? Are you bleeding?" is they lay out a bunch of plot for the movie. I mean, that basically is what that entire scene is for.
yeah, and then I think the bad guys learn. Oh, I guess it is important to the plot that they learn that she has a copy of the disc. Because this is where they learn. Undersecretary gets a call from somebody.
Yes, Undersecretary Daniel Harper. I recognized him, and I was the only thing I know he did other stuff, but I immediately recognized him from. He doesn't have he only has about 2 lines in Major League, but he has 2 of the best lines in the movie Major League. He is the bench coach, Pepper.
Yes. He is the bench coach.
Yes, he is the bench coach. And when Rick Vaughn pulls up on the motorcycle,
yes!
This is a clean podcast, so I won't do it, but he has one of the greatest lines in that movie.
I know exactly the line, and that's one of my favorites, too.
And he has a later one, too, with Ricky Vaughn, when he goes to Lou Brown in Vaughn's debut, and he says, you want me? He doesn't have the great line. He says, hey, you want me to go get him? And Brown's like, no, let's see how he reacts to giving up a home run.
Right.
And then he goes and beats the guy in the back. Well, that's interesting. You can go get him now, as he's basically starting a brawl out there.
I did not make the connection that was the same guy, because he's really that guy. Yeah, you're right. He doesn't have a lot of stuff, but
it's gold. I mean,
he's like
Pepper.
He's one of the stealth funniest things in that movie.
Yes, because he also brings the bucket of chicken when Serrano wants to sacrifice a live chicken, and Jake Taylor's thanks, Pepper. Pepper is underappreciated in that movie, but I immediately recognize him from Major League.
The line when Vaughn pulls up, I'm just going to do the clean version where he goes, look at this effing guy.
Yeah.
That line
gold.
goes through my head so many times in everyday situations.
Yeah,
I'll be like at a street corner and someone will pull up next to me just looking crazy. Like, look at this. His voice pops in my head so frequently.
Yep. So I looked up. He had done other stuff in his career, but I immediately, when I saw him, I'm like, it's Pepper.
I did not know. I recognized him actually. I'm pretty sure I didn't actually look him up, but I'm pretty sure he's the general in Under Siege.
Could be.
I think he's the guy who he's like the Colonel Troutman of Under Siege, right? Okay. Where he's just like, the cook. He's no cook. I trained him or whatever. Like, I think he's that guy. Anyway, but thank you for making that connection, because now my mind has been blown by the.
Yeah, so what you get from that is he's very Harper, not Pepper, but Harper is very upset with Cyrus.
Well, the part that made me laugh is he's got the disc that they stole from the FBI evidence locker, and he snaps it in half, and a piece breaks off and hits him in the face.
I didn't see that. That's fantastic.
And you can tell the actor's not trying to react. He kind of like, oh, you can see the actor kind of like contain himself.
Yes.
They're like, well, we only had one disc. We can't do a second take.
We can't afford more of those discs.
Nope.
We spent it all on the establishing shot of Arnold walking into the office.
Yep. Anyway, so what the hell's his name? Not Breacher.
John Kruger.
Kruger. I mean, I keep forgetting. I just need to keep calling him Arnold. But Arnold's gonna hide Lee in Chinatown. He's got a former witness that he trusts, etc.
Yes, I'm not sure I agree with his strategy. He's now putting 2 witnesses of his in danger in having them in such close proximity to one another. Not only that, you then later find out that he has other witnesses in close proximity as well. In terms of his strategy, that's really, really dangerous, if you ask me.
He just doesn't want to have to travel.
Maybe that's it. He wants, for the convenience factor, to go check in on him.
Right. Just put everyone within a 10-minute drive of my house.
Yeah, we'll put everyone here and we'll be fine. We're either going to put them there or in New York City. That's where they all need to be.
So then what happens? Oh, this is where James Caan comes back in the movie, and he tells John that witnesses are being killed.
Yes.
And they got to team up and relocate their witnesses.
And bring in the CIA.
Do they bring in the CIA?
Yeah, the 2 guys, Calderon and Schiff, are from the CIA.
Oh, I didn't notice that detail.
Now, it's under the guise of Caan's witness is somehow tangentially, whatever she's testifying or under protection for is related to the CIA. That's the reason why.
But the actual reason is...
Yeah, the actual reason is he needs his guys on the team. Caan needs his guys on the team.
Well, but also, this whole thing is BS, right? Like, no one's actually being killed. This is my interpretation. I mean, maybe you disagree, but I assumed James Caan made this whole thing up because he's trying to get to Lee.
Right.
He's saying, if I tell Arnold, I'm never going to remember his name.
John Kruger.
That this is happening, and I say, we got to do it in teams. And Kruger says, like, well, we do yours first. And I'm sure he's just like, okay, fine. As long as we do go get Lee afterwards. Like, he's just trying to get to Lee to kill her.
Yeah.
To silence her because he's involved in this arms deal. So I assume his whole story of witnesses are dying, I'm taking it to be that's not true at all.
I took it as that it was true that he's the team that is there to kill his witness that doesn't do it fast enough. I took it as that team probably got sent to some others because I would assume, because Kruger... Arnold's character, he looks at him like he doesn't believe him and that something is wrong.
Yeah.
And so I would have taken it that Kruger would have checked with Beller or somebody else to find out if that story was true.
Yeah, that's what I said. He has to confirm.
No, and that's the reason why I think that that team that was sent to kill Caan's witness probably killed some other witnesses as well to make it seem legitimate. So I think there probably was at least a couple of others, but not necessarily to add to the body count.
Okay. So... yeah, that's part of the reason why. So these are unconfirmed. So we're not going to count them.
But I think it's probably true. But since we don't see it, I don't think you can. You can make the case that you just made that it may have been made up.
But you're saying that they killed a bunch of witnesses. Their real target is Lee.
Yes, but they're making the story plausible by killing some other witnesses to make it so that Kruger would go along with it and believe it.
Okay, which is sort of. I mean, essentially, it's the same thing. It's just a question of whether or not the other 4 whatever witnesses actually died. But yeah.
So we get Schiff and Calderon, but we also get Deputy Monroe. And Deputy Monroe, the actor, I do not have his name. He did not have a good year. He had a good year in terms of his career, but he does not last very long in movies.
I do have his name because I noticed him too, and
I know. I mean, The Rock, right? I mean, immediately that's what came to mind.
Within 1 year, he was in Crimson Tide, The Rock, and this, and then disappeared from the face of the earth.
Wow.
I mean, well, he's been in things, but nothing
substantial.
And he's memorable in all 3 movies. I mean, he's noteworthy in this because he's kind of he's there to provide emotional punch to James Caan's like villain turn of just he kills this kid who we haven't met for very long, but he's obviously someone you're supposed to like.
Yes.
And then The Rock, he's got the whole shot of like, is he the one who doesn't go up and he's like I got to go up the ladder and so like that like in all 3 movies he has like
he's chum for the shark.
Well, in those 2 for sure he's chum, but I was gonna in all 3 movies he's like kind of like weirdly the emotional center of the movie because in Crimson Tide
he's the one who's arguing about the Silver Surfer.
Right, he thinks he doesn't like Mobius Silver Surfer. Yes, so like you're right. Like that's a really impressive for like a relatively unknown prior to that. I assume I don't know, but
a good run. But in both The Rock and this one, he's not long for this world.
Yeah, he doesn't have a good fate for sure. But Danny Nucci is his name.
Danny Nucci, okay.
And then did you recognize Calderon at all? I don't know about the other guy. But,
Calderon, yes, Con Air, which. Is a movie that comes out shortly after this. I think it's the next year, and a movie that I absolutely loathe, but that's immediately what I recognize him from. And I don't remember which of the murderers on the plane he was, but he was the one who really didn't like Cameron Poe.
Right, yeah. I mean, he's definitely one of the lesser, as star-studded as that movie. It's bad. It's a bad movie, but it's pretty star-studded, and he's one of the lesser guys. He's also in Training Day. That's mostly what I recognize him from.
I didn't...
He's one of Denzel's crew.
Okay, now that you mention it, yes, but I immediately recognize him from Con Air.
Yeah, he's very suspicious of what's his name?
Ethan Hawke.
Ethan Hawke, yeah. Anyway, they're on this plane. They're going to find James Caan's witness.
Yeah, they're flying there. They get the established, we got a couple of these planes, basically a bunch of, and then some other banter, tough guy banter. It's mostly irrelevant.
Yeah, I did like, because Calderon, he says like, don't you ever get tired of babysitting scum? And he goes, yeah, but in your case, I'd make an exception. And then Calderon's reaction cracked me up, where he's just like, "Aw." He actually looks sad.
I didn't notice that. I'll have to go back and check that out.
It made me laugh. But
so what you get to then is they clearly have landed. They're in some remote area. I like this that we were able to get the Arnold gearing up sequence.
Yes, it's a good one.
It is a good one. I don't understand why he needs all this gear, by the way.
And really good like piece of music. Alan Silvestri did the music in this, and it's not that noticeable, but this theme where he's suiting up, and it's a really good theme. And I wish this was more like of an action-packed kind of
like Commando,
where it was just like really much more like there's a version of this movie like you watch that scene where he's suiting up, and it's just like in any other movie, you'd be like getting really excited. Like, he's gonna go.
The carnage that he's about to unleash.
Yeah, exactly, but not in this movie. They go in. She's under assault by a bunch of guys.
She's under assault, and this is where the bodies start getting stacked up pretty quickly.
Yep. So the first body is actually James. John's going upstairs, and the guy gets the jump on him, and James Caan's character
saves him. Yep.
Why does he save him?
No, he needs to save him because he doesn't know where Lee is. He needs Kruger to believe.
Oh, I guess that's true. Yeah.
And I thought the same thing too, but no, they haven't flipped him yet because you find out in about 5 minutes in the plane that Caan's the bad guy.
Right.
Which I kind of, even as a kid, I kind of know. I guess Sonny Corleone, he's probably the bad guy.
Yeah, definitely.
But he needs him. He needs him to believe that his witness is in jeopardy and tell him where she is.
Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't think about that. But you're right. He does need him.
So the next sequence though, Arnold, with the knife through the door was it was a moment I loved.
It's good, but even in an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, it's a little implausible.
Oh, it's not even close. He gets him with one. What's great is he gets him with one hand. He gets this knife to go through a solid wood door.
Solid wood door.
It wasn't a hollow core like the cheap ones I have in my house.
And it's like I don't know, how thick is a door? Like 3-4 inches? And it may be a 6-inch knife, so that knife is not going to go that far into the guy.
But with the other hand, he gets a knife through the door with one hand. He shotguns a guy with the other hand. I mean, he is John Matrix. You're right.
Well, in this scene, he is like at least they're throwing us a bone. At least I'm just like, okay, here's some Arnold killing some guys.
Yes.
Meanwhile, James Caan. So there's body count is
that's 3 now in this seat.
Yeah, so we're up to 15, and then meanwhile James Caan finds his witness, and she's being held hostage.
Yes, and this is where the reveal. So I guess on a ruling, the guy who goes out the window is that on the body count? As I was trying to help with it, I did not have it that guy necessarily was dead.
I mean, if he didn't die from the fall, they can't like
you can't leave him behind. I guess you're right.
I assumed it's not that big of a fall, but if Arnold kicks you out a window. That's a death blow.
That's a death sentence. That's the death blow. All right.
So yeah, James Caan shoots the guy holding her hostage. Arnold kicks the guy out of the window, and then he suffocates, or he shoots the witness, and then kind of like pretends to be doing mouth to mouth.
Kills her with CPR after Harper comes in, and he says, "Oh yeah, go. The witness has been hit. Go get an ambulance," and then he finishes her off. So I think that it does get the action sequence, and you get Caan really is the bad guy here.
Yep. So they get back in the plane.
Arnold's thirsty. All that killing makes him, especially getting knives through solid core doors.
It works up a thirst, that's for sure.
Yep.
That's a Gatorade commercial, like waiting to happen. Yes. Arnold as just like after a long day of killing, I need my Gatorade. But he takes a bottle of water. Actually, it's funny you mentioned that because they never show him like spiking that bottle of water or like how he spikes it, and it's a brand name bottle of water. I think
it's Hinckley and Schmidt.
Yeah, it's Hinckley and Schmidt. So this movie is. I'm surprised they didn't get upset at this movie. We were talking about Cyrix, but like he just drinks his Hinckley and Schmidt and then just starts like passing out.
You know what though? I know he just starts passing out. For that, I would guess Hinckley and Schmidt probably paid to be in it. I would bet.
Well, it's not a very good depiction, is it?
Well, it's not, because maybe they got signed on and then they found out later, wait a minute, our water is going to knock out Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Because of all the things this movie over-explains, this is the one thing it doesn't make clear that it is. I mean, obviously, it's obvious that his water is spiked in some way.
Yeah.
But, this is the one thing they don't spell out. So
they don't spell it out because either Schiff or Calderon goes to get one, and he's like, no, I think you'll prefer this soda better, which is somewhat ironic. In an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, a guy who, had preached about fitness, it was kind of ironic, especially today. There's such a push to get carbonated, soda beverages out of schools and that they're unhealthy, that you would be pushing the soda. I think you'd prefer this much better than this healthy water.
And in that fridge, there's plenty of non-spiked bottled water. The guy Calderon obviously wanted a water, but no, here, have this Pepsi.
No, yes.
He passes out. He sends the 911 to Lee.
Gives Lee, she follows instructions that have been given and takes off immediately.
Yeah. Which I don't know. Like my first thought was, why is he sending this 911? Because he realizes something's up and he sends them to Atlanta. And that's even before he realizes he's been drugged.
I think because he was. I do think they did a good job of establishing he was suspicious about this from the absolute beginning.
Yeah, it's nice that he's actually smart. Like he's actually ahead of them in this game.
Right, and so that's the reason why I think he sends the 911 and lies about Atlanta, because he realizes he's starting to get woozy that something is clearly wrong here.
But it's because he sent the 911, they trace the call and they figure out where she is. So if he hadn't sent... My first thought was, well, if he hadn't sent that 911, they would have never found her. but maybe he's worried, like, he's been drugged. It's like in True Lies, where it's like, it's a truth serum. Like, maybe he thought he didn't trust himself to not give her up.
not give up the location so he had to send involuntarily.
So at first I had doubts about that, but it actually kind of makes sense. So he passes out, she runs, she goes to the zoo. And he wakes up. Oh, well, while he's out, Monroe is freaking out and going like, "What are you doing?"
Yes, because they're going to change the flight path to Atlanta. Or no, from Atlanta, I think, to New York, because they figure out it's New York, and so he wants to call it in, and Caan is going to have nothing of it. He needs to give him his performance evaluation right now.
Well, he gives him. I like that moment where he shoots Monroe.
Yes,
because Monroe's asking too many questions. He's like, "It's time for your evaluation." And he shoots him. And he goes, "A+ kid." And he looks kind of sad. I actually think like that's actually kind of a sympathetic moment for James Caan's character of just like, I didn't want to have to kill you, kid. You should have kept your mouth shut. But he's saying like A+, like you were doing everything right. That's why you're dead. You know what I mean?
I took it the other way though because they needed to frame Kruger, so they knew they were bringing this kid. He was gonna sacrifice this kid to frame Kruger.
You think it was that premeditated?
Yeah, I think that's the reason they needed one more guy to blame. They needed something else to hold over Kruger, and that was going to be it.
That could be. I didn't think about that.
So, I mean, that's the way I took it. I actually took it the opposite. It was making Caan even more of an unlikable. That was premeditated. They were going to sacrifice.
Yeah, just the way James Caan read that line though, like he had kind of a sadness.
Yeah,
to it.
No, his delivery. You're right.
Then he wakes back up and they just let him kind of march around and they've got guns on him. They've taken his gun and they've got guns trained on him, but
they do set it up. If you drop your gun right now, I'll not kill you. I mean, it seems like you always have to have this standoff situation. And this is leaning more towards John Matrix territory, right?
Yeah, that's a good line.
I mean, it's sort of like I promise Sully, I'll kill you last, right? I mean, he's in these he's outmanned, outgunned, but he gives them the one. I'm going to give you this out right now before I kill you.
Yeah, it's a good line. It's the most Arnold moment at least the most Arnold like line of dialogue.
Yes.
But he knows he's got his secret knife in his belt buckle. That's why he's able to make that threat.
He is able to make that threat, which thank you. I mean, probably my favorite Caan moment is when they've got the guns on him and Arnold throws it. I can't believe you hit me with that cheap mail order piece of... Yep. That was my favorite line in this movie.
It is a really good line. It almost feels ad-libbed. It's hard to say.
Yes. So kudos to James Caan on that one. It's my favorite line in the movie.
Yeah. So Monroe is number 18, incidentally, and there's a gunfight, and no one gets hit, and then he throws a chair out the window and makes the engine. It goes right into the jet engine.
Yes. I don't know if you had this, but I had it 54-32. Another spotting of Arnold face.
Yes. You know what? When I was watching it the first time, I went like, I need to remember, and then I forgot to notate it.
Yes.
No, thank you for bringing it up.
Yes, 54-32. You get, and it's a lot. You get a couple of sequences here, but in particular, 54-32, I had Arnold face.
When he's hanging out the side of the plane. Yeah, that's a great moment for Arnold face.
So what you then have is there's some more gunfire, and there's only one parachute. And it goes out, and Arnold, of course, goes out after it.
You think he does that intentionally, or does he just lose his grip? I'm not.
I think he went out after it because he knew he couldn't get back in because he was outgunned if he went back in. So he's like, "Well, I'm just going to commit to this, and I'm going after the parachute."
Yeah, that's a memorable shot. I don't think it was in the trailer, but it's one of those things I remember of just him letting go of the plane.
Yeah, going through the fire. I thought it was in the trailer. That's interesting that it's not because I thought I remembered that from the trailer.
Yeah, I thought so too, but I found that
the trailer. At least you found it.
We do have the trailer here if we want to watch it later, but.
So Arnold goes after the parachute, and of course, he catches up to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's very reminiscent of Moonraker, considering we're both Bond fans. I think Moonraker did this sequence better, but it's pretty good. He catches up to the parachute, he deploys it.
He deploys it, gets it on, and then...
James Caan is not satisfied.
No, he's not. And Arnold's not satisfied. He's going to play chicken with a plane.
Oh, yeah, he does.
He plays chicken with a plane. It's awesome.
It's very Jack Slater.
It's very Jack Slater, and I'm glad you mentioned that it was sort of Commando, that Kruger is sort of John Matrix, because you're right. I hadn't thought about it. If this thing, Eraser should have just committed to a 1996 Commando, because when you think about it, he plays chicken with a plane, and he wins.
He does. I didn't think about it in those terms, but you're right. He is playing chicken. It's
there's not much
parachute versus plane, and he wins.
Yeah, but I mean, in reality, in his defense, in Kruger, the character's defense, there's not much he can do, right? I mean, he can't jump out of the parachute. But in terms of the setup, I mean, this is awesome. In terms of a like fun 80s action movie, he plays chicken with a plane and wins.
Yep,
and this is post Last Action Hero, but I mean, Danny Madigan would have absolutely loved the fact that John Kruger plays chicken with an airplane and the good guy wins.
Yeah, he psychs out Sully Sullenberger and he can't.
Yes, thank you.
That guy cannot. He chickens out at the last minute, which is crazy.
And so
he gets wrapped up in the parachute, but he manages to cut it free.
Of course, manages to then deploy the second parachute right before he's landing in a junkyard.
Yep. Which leads to maybe my favorite line in this movie, or my favorite exchange, where he goes, "Where is this?" And the little girl.
The little girl is great.
Earth.
Welcome.
It's a great line.
It is a great line. The only thing that I don't think is great is that as this goes on and he's looking to get a vehicle, the kids sell their dads.
Yeah, those kids are in big trouble.
They're in big trouble, but Kruger's completely taking advantage. He's a U.S. Marshal. Why doesn't he just commandeer it? He's giving... I know it was, I think, supposed to be for comic relief.
Right.
But his delivery, $50, it just, none of it, it's just, I didn't like it at all. He takes advantage of these kids, and he's a police officer. He should be able to just commandeer the vehicle. He doesn't need to hoodwink these kids.
Yeah, part of me got some morbid satisfaction out of watching this like record lot guy get to basically taken advantage of, considering my line of work. I'm so sick of dealing with record lots and impound lots. Like they're all
crooks.
They're a lot of them are crooks. I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but I just enjoyed just kind of like, hey, my truck! He's just chasing,
shaking his fist.
Shake on a boy.
Like a Shelby Villian for a Simpsons fan.
Yeah, so it's a race to get to Lee and to get to the zoo.
It's a race to get to Lee. Here's the biggest problem I have with this, and one of the biggest problems I have with the movie is that somehow they can trace that pager and find out there were only 3 women getting into cabs in New York City.
Well,
and even if they could get the area, even if they could pin it down to like a few blocks.
Yeah, I think they had. And I think they had the time pinned down.
Okay, it is New York City.
Yeah, it is.
Do you know how many I mean, I don't know the numbers. I can't say that I...
Well,
no.
they did pair. I mean, they pared down the location, they pared down the time, and they pared it down to only single women or women alone, just getting a cab alone.
And I know maybe there was a reason they didn't go further and go with race, because maybe they want to play up, a racial aspect.
Sure.
But for the plausibility, they should have, because I'm telling you, New York City, single women getting into cabs, even if you have it down to a couple block radius, there's a lot of women getting into cabs.
Well, I was going to say, I don't know if cab drivers track the race of their passengers like in a database, but maybe considering the way some people feel about cabbies.
Well, and the other thing, too, is that they got to these cab companies that fast and had that data. It just was not very plausible.
Well, right, that's true also.
Whatever. You needed to get them there, fine. I'll get it. So now we have them swarming on the zoo.
Well, this is another one of his ninja moves where he drives this tow truck up. They immediately start shooting at him. And then the tow truck crashes. They riddle it with bullets.
And he's disappeared.
He's disappeared.
Yeah.
When did that happen? How did he jump out of this car?
How did he jump out, and then how did he get away undetected? But yes, Ninja Arnold has appeared again.
Yeah, I wrote down, I think James Caan's getting a lot of enjoyment out of shooting up this car, considering he gets turnabout from the guy.
I was just going to, I wondered if they put it in there for that, because that's immediately what I thought is Sonny finally gets his revenge, but it's on a tow truck.
He gets to be on the other end of that exchange, for sure. So then she sneaks into the reptile house.
Yes. Arnold bursts in, and to me, this is another one. I'm pretty sure that line was for the trailer of Traffic.
Traffic, yeah. It's one of those things where it's like this movie has a lot of lines like that where they're not quite puns. It's just like
they're not very good.
He's just describing what it's just
over-explaining.
It's just a dumb joke.
But Arnold, I have a body count there for one of those guys with the Desert Eagle when he comes in with Traffic.
He dives in, he shoots a guy with the Desert Eagle, and then the Gators do the rest of the work.
So yes, I would assume you want to spend a little time on the Gators.
Well, the CGI is terrible. I mean, it's some of the worst CGI I've ever seen.
And it's almost... It just felt like they wanted to... Because CGI was just kind of coming into its own.
Yeah.
And this is actually maybe the point where I want to kind of talk about it a little bit, because I had another topic of why this is kind of Arnold's, I think, last, we'll call it, commercial success outside of the Terminator movies. because this was a box office hit for him. This was like a top 10. It was a top 10 grossing for 1996.
Wow, I didn't know it was that big.
But so I think that 96 is kind of a point where an inflection point where action movies were starting to change, and the CGI is a good segue because 96 is also Independence Day,
right?
And that's a movie where Will Smith is an action star. Will Smith was he had Men in Black, but he was more of kind of a comedy,
action
comedy star. But Independence Day is really a movie where the technology and the CGI becomes more important in action movies and what they can do, that they can turn not big muscular guys like, Van Damme was a kickboxer, Stallone was muscular, Schwarzenegger was muscular. Once CGI came around, didn't matter. You could turn like Steve Rogers, right? You can CGI everything into little tiny guys into big muscular guys and vice versa.
Yeah.
But it's all
like Robert Downey Jr. is not someone you would be like, that guy is
you got exactly there, right?
Yeah.
When we evolve in action movies to the Marvel universe, you can go cast Robert Downey Jr. He's not a big muscular guy into becoming an action star.
Well, even the 90s is when Nicolas Cage became a big action star. It's like Nicolas Cage, in the 80s, he could never have.
Nope, absolutely. So right, the other ones kind of on the list of the movies of who, Harrison Ford, but Harrison Ford had an established track record of at least being an action star from other movies.
Yeah.
But I distinctly remember in 96 and 97 this run of disaster action movies. Twister was the one, and it was around the same time that really it was a huge runaway hit.
Yeah.
And that they started to say, man, we can have these. And you had a bad run there for a while when you and I were at school together, and I had this idea. I'm like, I got so tired of, because you had Twister, Daylight, Hard Rain, Volcano, so many of these that when in 96, 97, and when you got to 98 with Hard Rain, I remember talking to you in school. I'm like, I'm going to write a movie, and it's going to be called Humidity. And it's just going to be, it's outrageously humid out, and people are looking for lemonade, because I was so tired of disaster movies.
Yep.
And that was a run for a while. But then, CGI really then, because the after Twister, you had a run there. I remember Hard Rain was the one I couldn't take it anymore.
I remember your pitch for Humidity from back then, but I didn't remember that Hard Rain was the thing that triggered it.
Oh, it was. Christian Slater, and that was like a robbery disaster movie combined with Christian Slater. It was bad, too.
Yeah.
So that did peter out, which was good, the disaster action. But what wound up coming then is you really then have CGI franchises coming into their own, because you start to get The Mummy, where Brendan Fraser is an action star.
Yep.
But then you also have the re-establishment of the Star Wars franchise, and those are really, really heavy CGI.
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor, right? I mean, you don't need big, bulky action guys for those movies to be successful. You need computer graphics.
Well, but those were never action movies. The originals didn't have, they didn't have action stars.
No, but I guess what I'm saying is the reason why I think that Arnold's career from 96, when these other movies he was taking on, those weren't the movies being made.
Yeah,
because when you fast forward into the 2000s, you start to get the trilogies. You start to get the franchises of The Lord of the Rings, The Matrix, where Keanu Reeves is an action star because of CGI.
Yeah.
And then you start to get the beginnings of the Marvel movement of X-Men and Spider-Man. So I guess to me, I wanted to kind of get this out there. There's, I think, a distinct reason why Arnold's movies take a different track is that I think the action world changed, and CGI was the big reason that the action world changed. Not necessarily for better or for worse, but I don't think you can ever go back to those 80s and 90s action movies because you don't need the big muscular guys anymore.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's less when you live in a world where you can CGI anything, then kind of nothing becomes impressive. Like, it's a weird thing where even the dumb thing, we're kind of half kidding when we talk about how much we love Arnold carrying a log, but still, like, that Arnold is strong and he's actually carrying something big and heavy, even if it's like a prop log. It's still, I'm sure, really heavy. And whereas even when you can CGI anything you want, then it basically just invalidates, anything. 'Cause I think you're right. That the CGI coming in is the turning point.
Yeah, in his career. So this was kind of the point in the movie where I thought it made the most sense to kind of discuss. But that was one of my big takeaways from this. I think that those two, the little mini run of disaster movies, hurt his career, and then kind of the CGI, and then the franchises. And the Terminator franchise isn't like the Lord of the Rings or the Matrix, where they were all so compressed and right together, where you can then springboard and do other stuff. They had been spread out so far, and I think that really impacted his career.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, but part of it was just him getting older, but I think that had a huge impact for sure. Well, in this movie especially, because these alligators, I think filmmakers in 1996 hadn't quite figured out what the limitations of CGI were, or at least the limitations of 90s CGI. Because, although I don't know, I mean, the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park look good, but generally speaking, living things
Didn't look very good.
Didn't look good in CGI. So, like, you know, you're talking about Independence Day. They were at least smart enough to know when you actually see the aliens, they were puppets, you know, or whatever they were. They were physical things. They were not CGI.
No, because it wasn't there yet. They saved their CGI for the buildings, and
so these alligators look so terrible.
They're so terrible, and this is one of those missed opportunities. This could have been one of the best lines of his career, and all you get is your luggage. How could you not go with the obvious? See you later, alligator. How could you not have that? I mean, to me, that is just so... And even if... You could have done it where the first one is when he's making escape and shooting to get the crocodiles out there. See you later, alligator. Pulls the trigger, and there's a ripping the guys apart. After a while, crocodile. I mean, it would have been so great.
Yeah, you're right.
Such a missed opportunity because your luggage is just not good.
Yeah, honestly, that didn't even occur to me. You're saying it's obvious, but see you later, alligator.
Really?
I didn't even think about it. But it's perfect.
When I rewatched this, I'm like, this could have been one of my favorite Arnold lines of all time, and such a great pun for our podcast. See you later, alligator. After a while, crocodile.
You're right. That is a huge missed opportunity. I mean, it's just not that kind of movie, unfortunately. Up to this point, we still are on pun 0. We have not had a pun yet.
I mean, he's got a couple of, lines like your luggage, but not any puns, really.
Right.
So, the bad CGI gators, I'm not sure they get 3 guys on my body count.
Yeah, so
my question is, does the gator count on the body count?
No, I'm not counting animals, although unless you really think we should be counting
No,
it.
that's fine. I just because he did get a gator. Arnold used his last bullet efficiently.
Well, my note was, because in the next scene, James Coburn shows up, and he kind of has an exchange with James Caan about, like, what happened. And he says, how many casualties? And James Caan says, 3 of my men. Kruger took them out like that, cold. Neither one of those statements is true. 4 guys died, and Kruger only killed one of them. The alligators killed the other 3, so... he's not as good at this body count stuff as we are. I think, 'cause he got
he kills so many people; it's really hard to keep track.
He killed a lot of people.
So then, Arnold, John Kruger, calls Coburn.
Well, can we just the exchange between Coburn and James Caan of just
sure?
He says, "Bring him back alive," and then James Caan gives the funniest look. I don't know if you remember that look.
I do remember that look, and there's another There's another look that I love later on in the movie.
James Caan is also he's maybe getting a little broad and a little hammy, but he's having fun with this movie.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry. Back to Arnold and
So yeah, Arnold gives Beller, James Coburn, a call.
Yeah.
And basically, what we figure out is that Arnold's on his own. Big surprise.
This is where we learn DeGuerin's name. We're this deep into the movie because DeGuerin's the mold.
Yes.
Okay.
And so ultimately, he's going to have to go get some hard physical evidence.
Yep, and we learned that her friend, the reporter, was killed off screen. So
yes.
That's 23.
Peeled like an onion.
Oh, really? Is that what he said? Ugh, I didn't
know. No, because this isn't where you learn it. You mean the reporter?
Yeah, the reporter.
No, you get that way back when they're getting on the plane. Because either Schiff or Calderon says...
Oh,
she was peeled like an onion. I think it was Calderon that says it.
I missed that line, so I have it here. But 23 is I'm counting her, even though she's off screen.
That's fine.
Yeah, and then
luckily he has another witness that he can go call upon, Father Rodriguez.
Yep.
Again, he's got a very high concentration of where he stashes these witnesses.
He must have like dozens, if not hundreds. Like you'd think he should just call them all in. Like he goes and he gets in a minute. He's going to get Johnny to help him out. Like why stop at Johnny? Why not ask Father Rodriguez to help out and
build your own army? Right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean he does later, but a very different. He ends up recruiting those mob guys. Like we may as well just recruit
bring everybody
guys.
You can.
Yeah, you already know. So yeah, she says this is where she reveals that she has the disc, right? And
yes,
she says, he goes, we have to find out what's on this disc, and she says, I tried. It's completely hacker proof. You tried for like 10 seconds.
You tried for like 10 seconds. You put it in and said, I'm gonna go make myself something to eat.
Yeah. So anyway, they need to get it back. They can only read the disc in the corporate office.
What I took from this, and this is a movie that when I went to look I wanted to see, since this was a pretty successful movie for the year, I wanted to see, sort of like I've done on other ones, what else came out that year.
Okay.
Mission Impossible is on the list of 1996, and there's not as many parallels between Mission Impossible and Eraser as there are between Rain Man and Twins. But when I saw that, I had the list. I'm like, oh, Mission Impossible, this is essentially the same thing. I need to break into this one specific place to get the information. It's very Mission Impossible.
That's more like they need to steal a list, right?
Yes, he's stealing something that he's breaking into.
Whereas this, they have the information, they just need to use one particular computer.
One terminal is the only place they can do it. It is much lamer.
Yeah, Mission Impossible does this so much better.
Yes. So then they need... He
needs Johnny's help.
He needs Johnny's help.
So
I'm not sure why it has to be Johnny and it can't be Father Rodriguez.
How does he even...
Because Johnny helps out. He's posing as the pizza guy.
That's right.
Why can't it be a different food being delivered by Father Rodriguez? Why does it have to be Johnny?
You're right. It literally could have been anybody. He's not providing... I mean, later he happens to know... His cousin just happens to run the dock.
So happens... But yes, in terms of at least right now in this movie, why does it have to be? I like Johnny. I don't mind getting some more Johnny. But there's no reason that it has to be Johnny.
That's a really good point. But anyway, Johnny's working at this gay bar that has valet parking.
Valet parking. What I loved is that Homer Simpson's favorite song on the jukebox in Moe's is playing "It's Raining Men."
Yeah, it's a little bit cliche.
It's cliche and over the top. And here's the thing: this is a 1990s action movie.
Yeah,
I think this definitely makes it a 1990s action movie because all of this stuff I don't think would be done today, or it would not be played up nearly as much.
It's pushing it, but I don't think it goes beyond any kind of lines. Like it's fine. He goes in and Johnny's there bartending alongside a career crashed John Cryer. Did you notice those John Cryer?
No, I did not notice that.
He has like one line. He's like, "Oh, he looks rough," or whatever he says. That's John Cryer. Career. Like, do you want to talk about his career just being?
Well, it wasn't over because he rebounds with 2.5 Men.
No, he definitely rebounded, but this is like the complete nadir of that guy's career.
This is the trough.
Yeah, like even he after like his Hot Shots movies, he couldn't even get like that kind of a.
I completely missed that. Thank you.
He's got like 2 lines. Yeah, that's John Cryer. So yeah, he pulls out Johnny and he needs his help to break into Cyrez.
Yes, I'm not sure again why it has to be Johnny, but
and Johnny is apparently a big history buff because he has the most amazing pull where he says, to break into there, you need a set of balls the size of the King of Bayonne. The King of Bayonne.
That was pretty random. That had to be. There's just some writer that wanted that in there.
I guess so. It's like what a strange pull. Meanwhile, James Caan has a meeting with the undersecretary. And,
not just any meeting though. I have it. It's in a limo.
Oh, you're right.
It's that these are high powered, important, evil men because their meeting is in a limo.
Yep.
So Pepper, the undersecretary, has a line that's just so hammy and bad. I don't blame the actor, but it's bad writing. He's the disc, the girl, the guns. By dawn, they don't exist. It's so bad and such. It's just a line of its time.
Well, it's just to remind the audience what this movie is about.
Yes, I just have so lame. It's just, and again, I don't think it's the actor necessarily that it's bad. It's just bad writing. It's not good.
No, yeah, you're right. This movie is not well written at all. They're going to break into Cyrez. They steal this ambulance, which you would think would raise some kind of a red flag. You'd think James Caan would be like, well, an ambulance is stolen. Maybe we should watch out for an ambulance.
Again,
especially considering he trained him.
Arnold's been breaking a lot of laws and is able to make this ambulance go missing, but okay.
Yeah, well, it's another missed opportunity of just like you would think James Caan, it would be like what you want this to be is a battle of wits. James Caan trained John.
Right, he's a mentor.
Yeah, and so you'd think he'd know all of his tactics. He knows what to expect. He knows, and it should be this cat and mouse thing of just like, oh, I think this is his plan to infiltrate, but no, it's a ruse. And their plan is really very straightforward, and it works perfectly. And it's not it's not a creative break in. Like this needs to be like a fun heist kind of a thing, and it's just not.
And it's not. And what you get with Caan at Cyrez, he completely lays out in dialogue how difficult this is going to be. Not just Caan, but everybody. Oh, this is what needs to be done, and there's only one room, and there's 2, security guards with machine guns.
Right.
It's completely laid out in dialogue and not very good.
Turns out not to be true. Like the Mission Impossible comparison is interesting because that movie does a great job. Like that's the best sequence in that movie, no question.
Sure. Yeah.
And it lays out perfectly. Here are the things that are in our way. There's these laser beams that are blocking the grate, and then you can't touch the floor. And there's a temperature, and there's sound, and there's all these things they need to watch out for. And he's constantly trying to balance. Like, he's losing his balance, so he can't make a sound, and the sweat is dripping, etc.
Right.
It's great. It's like that's an amazing sequence, and you understand exactly what he needs to do and what he can't do, etc. Here, they lay out this whole thing. They need to get into this room. I mean, really, it's just they need to get into this one particular clean room and use the disc there. And then that turns out to not even be true. They just go and use a different computer.
It's completely nonsense. You were right. Donahue left himself a back door.
Back door. So they use Donahue's back door. They go up to his office.
So we skipped a little bit. So Johnny shows up with a pizza.
Right.
Robert Pastorelli, he's hamming it up a little bit.
You're right. We did skip that, and then we get our comedy defibrillation scene.
Yeah, which
the worst.
It's bad. From the Alka-Seltzer being able to look like foaming at the mouth and having a seizure, I'm not sure that that's true. To then the defibrillation scene, which is just really, really bad in terms of plausibility. That one, why do they have EMTs? Why do they have an infirmary in the first place?
They're like a little government to themselves.
Yeah, apparently they are a government to themselves. But then whoever they've trained, they have not hired the right people, because the first thing you're supposed to do is check for a pulse. Not only does he have a pulse, he's speaking. Right. Why would you be wailing on him?
He clearly does not need to be defibrillated. No. Like, his heart has not stopped.
No. I mean, I know it's for comedic effect because Robert Pastorelli's character is the comic relief in this movie, but completely nonsensical.
Yes, that's their plan. Is he fakes a seizure? They take him to the infirmary. They call an ambulance, and then Arnold and Vanessa Williams show up in an ambulance, pretending to be EMTs. Which, does he reroute the call?
Thank you.
Shouldn't another ambulance be showing up?
Absolutely. I mean, I've certainly watched other movies where they have to cut in, right? I mean,
it's in Ocean's 11 they do this.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. Ocean's 11, where they have to override 911. Yes,
right. He redirects the call and he answers as if he's 911.
Yeah, because a real ambulance would show up otherwise.
Right, and then Brad Pitt shows up in that wig and pretends to be a doctor. So, that's. I mean, I don't want to say Ocean's 11 stole it from this, because they did it way better, and it's
Well, yeah,
it makes more sense. Like they thought it through.
They thought it through because the real 911 operator, you're right, a real ambulance would show up. Make no sense at all.
Yeah, and as soon as that happened, they'd be done, and I don't know, whatever. They get up to Donahue's office. They use his computer. Like the moment where they're going through all the files, like the bank. They're tracking all the banking files, and she says, I think he says like UBS, and she goes, "Yeah, the United Bank of Syria."
No, she doesn't say Syria.
She does say...
Are you sure? Sure?
I'm pretty sure. I think this is another one of those things that the lawyer's not clearing because...
Well, because UBS is...
Well, right.
Yeah.
It's obviously a real bank. But UBS shows up on the screen, and I wonder if maybe what happened is, like, UBS got wind of it and went, like...
Gave them the no.
You're not going to say that, arms dealers are...
Money laundering through our bank.
I'll bet that's what happened. Because I'm pretty sure, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure she goes, yeah, UBS, the United Bank of Syria, as to try to like, no, not that UBS. No.
No, not the one you think it is.
I could be wrong, but I thought that's what she said.
So here's the thing I didn't understand about the disc. I love that Arnold's just kind of like banging away on keys. I like the idea of a hacker movie with Arnold for some reason. I think that would be a lot of fun.
It would be, I agree.
But I want to know why they're doing this arms deal. I understand the stuff that's on the disc, the schematics of the weapons. There's a picture of who's buying the guns. Why would he be on there?
Yeah, there's no reason.
There's no reason.
It's like a link to his Facebook page.
Yes, there's no reason why who the buyer would be on that disc.
Yeah, that is strange.
Really, really bad writing.
It's just so you'll know him when he shows up in the movie in a minute.
Who he is.
Yeah.
I understand why, but there had to be a better way of establishing that.
Well, the thing, because again, this is where, like we said earlier, it's a $52 million deal, and they're moving 1,000 units. So which leads me to understand that if I wanted to buy an ultimate weapon railgun, it would only cost me $52,000. $52,000 does not seem like a lot of money for this thing.
No, for new prototype weapons. So eventually the cat and mouse game, they figure it out that there's this back door, and their in-house security is coming, well-armed in-house security is coming to storm it.
Yeah.
What I love is that somehow "you have been erased" shows up on the computer.
Yeah, who did that?
So who did that, and how do they know he's the eraser? So bad. So bad.
Yeah, it is.
So then what I had is that now he's destroyed the PC to just take the disc out, and it says you have just been erased.
Yeah.
The guards storm in. I've got it at an hour 22 and 40. 2 guards come in, 1 completely disappears. Because Arnold gets in this fight, he throws an office chair at the one guy. It's it's actually a pretty good like real action sequence in terms of like a stuntman. Really, that chair really hits him.
Yeah.
But one of those guards, he doesn't kill him, at least by mine. He just
right.
disappears. Where does that guard go?
You're right. Now that I'm thinking it through, you're absolutely right. Like,
That guard completely disappears.
Yeah, but the other guard definitely he disappears in a different way.
Yes.
he has grenades, which like these are guys. They're like, granted, this is a weapons manufacturer, but they're just security guards.
They're just security guards.
He's got grenades, and Arnold pulls the pin on the grenade.
So now that I'm thinking about it, you know what? Maybe this is the type of security guard Hans Gruber was thinking about, that you'd be too pesky to be a security guard in Die Hard, right?
Right.
Is that these security guards are like John McClane, but they're even better armed than John McClane because they've got hand grenades.
Yeah, which turns out to be a bad idea because he pulls the pin on the grenade, he pushes him back in the elevator.
I had four guys.
Four guys in the elevator plus him.
That's five.
Yep,
yes.
And then Arnold. There's a guy I had a note saying there's a guy hiding behind a fern. That he just
I did not realize it was a fern. Nice catch.
So six guys die here, but you're right. Yep. Maybe the guy hiding behind the fern turned out to be the guy who was missing.
Then he was a coward and ran and hid behind the fern for a while.
I think maybe he was. Yes, this is where like those crazy security doors come down.
Yes,
and James Caan shows up and takes her captive.
Yes, he does figure out to shooting the glass doesn't work, but shooting the sprinklers gets the doors to lift up.
Sets off the fire alarm while the doors go up. But he's too late. The guy, James Caan, has escaped on a helicopter.
Yes, but Arnold gets one more guy.
He does get one more guy.
He gets one more guy snapping his neck.
He's just there to be killed. He doesn't even really attack. He's just like he basically just kind of comes around the corner.
Comes around the corner to be grabbed and have his neck broken.
Arnold's like, a guy. I'll kill him.
I need to add to my body count.
I'll just assume you're a bad guy.
What do we at on the body count?
We're at 30 right now.
Okay. So then, luckily, Johnny is still there, and Johnny is going to be useful because Johnny just happens to have a cousin who runs the docks in Baltimore.
His cousin is Frank Sabatka.
Thank you. Yeah, you beat me to it. That Frank Sabatka in The Wire.
I had to do it.
And so they're going to drive down to Baltimore because it is the Baltimore docks where Frank Sabatka, in a few years, Frank and the stevedores will be running it. But right now, the mob runs
That's
it.
true. It's a few years later.
Yes.
That's from The Wire, in case I was wondering.
It is a great reference. Thank you. So the stevedores are going to, in their union, somehow the Polish guys, they're going to rise up and kick the Italian mob out in The Wire.
Maybe this is the event, like this big gunfight.
Maybe, yeah.
The feds start looking into this
dock.
The
feds start looking into the dock, and Tony Two Toes can't control the docks anymore. I do like that we get Johnny coming back from the dead. I did like Tony Two Toes, who's the tree trunk. I did appreciate.
It's a pretty good line.
And then I also appreciate the international terrorists. They pick up their own guns. I mean, so the head of this organization, he's coming himself to pick up his own weaponry.
It's a very important arms deal. He has to oversee. He's a
micromanager. He needs to see everything.
Yeah, he's a very hands-on guy,
which I find interesting because the first we did, Benedict gets sent. He sends the flunky. Benedict is the one who gets sent. The top of the mob. He wanted nothing. He needed to establish his alibi.
Do we know for a fact he's the top of the mob? Maybe he is the flunky. It's hard. I'm not sure if that's ever.
Established? No, I thought he's
the head of the Russian mafia.
I thought he was the head. Yes.
Okay. Well, either way,
because Arnold knows who he is. John Kruger knows who he is.
That's true. He does. Yeah, he does recognize him.
Yeah.
So it leads us into our final action sequence, which we meet the head of the Russian mafia. I forget his name, the character's name. But,
yeah. Well, Arnold calls Beller, throws the phone down. So that it'll bring. Of course, the cavalry in all of these action movies comes after all of the carnage has already...
comes way too late. He doesn't even need to do anything. He should just be waiting for the cavalry. Instead, he's like, I'm going to do this myself.
Right.
I'm Arnold Schwarzenegger.
And all the gunfire and the fires people will just naturally come to.
I did like the shot of him like marching to war. He calls Beller, and he's got his... I was calling him in my notes the cannoli commandos.
Yes.
But is that offensive? Should I not be doing that?
No, that's fine.
But... like they're all just marching. He's like just tough dude, and it's just mob guys. It's like kind of like overweight dudes. Like we're gonna go to war. Anyway.
Yeah, so they got they don't keep guns. They're the mob, but they got baseball bats. They know how to break some skulls, but they need to go get some weapons.
Well, they're the honorable mafia. Like it's interesting the way this movie the Italian mafia is the good guys, the Russian mafia is the bad guys.
Yes, and by the way, I in my notes I had the Italian mafia beats out the Russian mafia.
They do.
Yes.
Well, eventually they get guns.
Yes.
They start off just with
baseball bats and brass knuckles.
Yeah. I do like that big, tiny whatever.
Little
Mike, and he's Say it ain't so. Like, that actor is actually... I'm enjoying his performance. I hear you're not using bona fide union labor.
I know all of this was for the comic relief, and I liked most of it.
I thought he was funny.
Yes,
it was intended to be comedic and successful. One of the few things that was intentionally comedic.
And little Mike knew the difference between communists and the Confederation of Liberated States.
Yeah,
don't make me hurt you, Mikey.
I enjoyed that too. The movie should have been about these guys, like the comic mafia, like kind of like inept middle management.
Well, and Tony
mafia.
Two Toes, a little bit is because his other famous movie, he was the mob boss in Analyze This, and probably Analyze That as well.
Oh wow, yeah.
And that's the only other thing I recognize him from.
Now that you mention it,
so I think maybe that's the reason why it works a little bit is because he's a funny guy.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Russian mob guy has Lee tied up on the bridge.
Yeah,
and she in the maybe he should get a more solid chair to tie her up on.
You would think, yes, he would check that chair.
And she hits him in the face with the coffee maker.
And this is pre-Krups or Keurig cups, so you actually have a real carafe that's made of glass,
piece of glass. But just the idea of just like, I want to gloat over this girl, but I also want some coffee. Give me some coffee. Put it next to the girl.
Put it. Yes, I need it convenient.
It's just right next to her, so she can hit him in the face with it.
So I have it, but we are a little remiss. We got a couple of bodies here that are stacking up quickly because you got Ninja Arnold shows up again in this sequence where he does.
This is Ultimate Ninja Arnold.
Ultimate Ninja. I mean, I don't even know how many flips he does in that sequence. What, 2, 3?
I wrote down he did a triple Lindy.
A triple Lindy, yes. Yeah. Thank you, from Back to School.
Well, these guys he just beats up. I don't know if he kills these two guys.
He doesn't, but what I'm saying is when he gets into that warehouse is where we got to get those bodies. In particular, you never want to pick up John Kruger's shotgun. That is a mistake.
Yeah, he flips over those guys, beats them up, and then he sneaks into this warehouse.
Yes.
The X-ray snipers spot him and start shooting at him. And completely missed dozens and dozens of times. I wrote down, remember, these weapons are ushering in a whole new era of terrorism. They cannot hit Arnold at all.
And Arnold's kind of a big target.
Yeah.
There's a lot to hit on Arnold.
I mean, they blow up the whole warehouse, basically. He gets a piece of shrapnel through the leg.
Yeah, and this is the other one. Like, you talked about his gun hand healing so quickly with a pretty major wound.
Yeah.
It's a huge gaping wound.
Yeah, it is.
And it's completely glossed over in the rest of these action sequences.
I don't
even know if he shows a limp in the rest of the action in this
not
scene.
at all. Not at all. And he gets shot in a minute, too, and basically shrugs that off. Like, he's just a machine.
So his shotgun...
well, also before we move on, like the explosions that drive that debris into his leg also perfectly burn off his sleeves to reveal his muscles.
Oh, I missed that. I am so disappointed in myself.
You didn't notice, like, from that point forward, he's got no sleeves. He's just,
it's just his muscles for the gun sequence.
Perfectly stylishly cuts off his sleeves.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is actually, like, I'm not complaining because it's perfect. Like, yes, that's the kind of movie I want to see.
So his shotgun is not functioning, so he throws it away in frustration. And as I said, don't pick up his shotgun. That was a mistake.
Yeah,
add to the body count.
Sniper
right there.
kills one of their own guys because, and that guy's way smaller than Arnold. Like, that's a big mistake to make.
Yes,
the sniper thinks it's Arnold.
So then, what I had too is he's struggling with this shrapnel. The other guy who's going in to check the warehouse to make sure they got him, he just walks up and he's literally within like 3 feet of a shrapnel Arnold. And Arnold takes the shrapnel and just stabs him.
Stabs him with
that guy is a terrible henchman. He's awful. He's within 3 feet of him and he can't see him or smell him.
Well, just the idea that these guys have X-ray scopes.
Well, the two guys that are checking it out don't have the X-ray scopes.
Well, sure, but
they do because that's how he gets their weapons. You're right, he does.
Eventually, they do. I think the two he kills the two guys who come in. Right. Well, the one guy gets sniped by his own guy.
That's right. No,
and then he
right.
stabs the guy with the shrapnel.
So and then
the two guys they sent in are now dead. So now the snipers come in.
Yes, and Arnold ninjas through the floor.
Yeah, that's a cool shot though. That shot. I will put that up against any action shot of any Arnold movie.
Bursting through the floor.
Well, first he shoots guys through the floor, through the floor. Then
2 more. Those guys don't make it.
Yeah, there's 33 and 34 is those guys. And then he bursts through the floor.
That
grabs their rail guns
and just goes to town. Yes,
it's great.
It is a great action sequence. Him bursting through the floor. I had missed that they had his sleeves burn off perfectly so he could just pick up these 2 massive guns and just start firing at will. It's like a battleship just firing at will, not looking. He is just going to wreak havoc.
And that's the thing is, these things are sniper rifles, and those two guys using the scopes couldn't hit him at all. Now he's got one in each hand, and he's boop, boop, boop,
he is just firing away.
He's hitting everything.
And his is blowing stuff up. And I know that you've established, but as we said before, with the FBI guys at the very beginning, they were just, burned to a crisp, a window broken. Arnold, as soon as he's firing this things are blowing up at will.
But just the fact that these guns have been established as like the ultimate like power, it's almost like now Arnold's got two of them. It's like the one ring from Lord of the Rings. Like, how can he resist this power? He's going to rule the world with these two guns if we were to believe what this movie is saying.
Yes, he just became the ultimate terrorist.
He's the most powerful man on the earth now.
He's the most powerful man in the world.
Two railguns. Anyway, so apparently Schiff and Calderon were some of those guys who got killed in this sequence.
Yes.
I didn't even... You learned that later. I was like, where were they? I didn't even notice them.
No, they were... I think they were the ones...
They were the two snipers?
The two guys... Yeah, the two guys that came in and got killed by Arnold through the floor, and he picks up their weapon. And then, now I've got where one of the Italian mob, they get the ubiquitous... So cliche, because we talked about this in one of the earliers. The sniper. Now, granted, this sniper rifle is bigger in terms of at least it's a bigger target, but of course, he gets it right through the rifle scope and kills the railgun sniper up there. I'm like, how many times is this done in a movie?
Yeah,
or not in a movie. How many times has this been done in action movies? We should almost keep a count of those.
I mean, it's certainly number two. What was the first? What was the other one? It was in Sabotage, right?
Yes, it was in Sabotage.
That was the previous time we saw this?
I can tell you there are many other movies that do it, because we discussed the movie Sniper itself,
right.
Saving Private Ryan. There are just so many.
So well, that's finally they do something, because for most of this they're just kind of hiding those mob guys.
Yes.
They're not really doing much.
They have weapons, but they're kind of cowering, letting Arnold, the ultimate terrorist with his railguns, wreak havoc first.
Arnold, meanwhile, is marching out, no cover. He just marches out with his two railguns and is just destroying everything,
including four guys in a truck who have only pulled up to get killed because they last maybe 5 seconds.
He runs in front of the truck. He is so not afraid of them. He's in cover. He runs out of cover, runs right in front of the truck. All he has to do is drive straight, and they'll hit him, and he shoots and blows up. Truck flips over his head.
Flips over.
Oh, this sequence... why is this movie not more like this? Like, this... I think this ending action sequence is awesome.
Yes, and that truck flipping... That's John Matrix right there. I mean, other than the technology, that probably is a scene in Commando when we go back. There probably is some truck of guys that show up, and it flips over, and they're all killed because John Matrix has just blown it up. He's John Matrix in that sequence.
But I don't even know if in Commando if there's ever a scene where he runs out in front of... He plays chicken again is really what's happening.
Yes.
He's running... He deliberately runs in front of this truck just to blow it up. It's great. So by the way, so we're up to 45 now.
Yes.
We're going to skim through a lot of these, but 45. Those guys in that truck are...
They don't make it. They show up for 5 seconds and they're toast.
Meanwhile, James Caan takes Lee hostage.
Yeah. So what I had is when he's demanding that John drop the guns. I want to note at 1 hour 39 and 25. When he drops it, Arnold just looks annoyed his face is kind of like he's annoyed with something that he's having. Maybe that he's having to drop these awesome guns.
Yeah.
It's just his face he's just got this disgust that he has to finally give up these weapons and go hand to hand because he's had so much fun blowing stuff up.
He's a kid being told to put away his toys.
Yes.
He doesn't want to put these railguns down. They're a lot of fun.
And so now Caan shoots him in the shoulder. Why did he shoot him in the shoulder?
Yeah. Like, that's good enough. Yeah, I don't know. He's got him dead to rights. There's no reason why he should ever let him live.
So now you've got the crate going up. Caan's got the hostage. Arnold's now got leg wound from shrapnel, hand wound from drill bit, and now a shoulder wound.
I think a lot of this is just to make their fist fight evenly matched.
No, I know why, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But he should be limping, and he is not limping. He is not showing he is wounded in this running sequence where the 5 Russians, including Sven.
Yep.
Sven makes an appearance, which was great as a Russian.
He gets a close up in this movie. Like he's featured prominently in this movie.
And so what I had is we've already talked about it. Is the Russian mob is no match, at least at this point in cinema history in 1996. I know you can get a history of violence and some other where the Russian mob starts to get played up in terms of being more brutal and gruesome than the Italian mob, but here the Italian mob easily mows down the Russian mob.
Yeah, very ineffectual. The Russian these Russian thugs they've got.
Yes, so I got 5 is what I had.
That's what I have also. So
all right.
that's
we're
50.
tying out.
All right. Yeah, and I have my note saying, like, wouldn't this start a war between the Italian mob and the Russian mob?
Yes.
Because clearly these guys, like, both sides, after this is over, I think would be pretty, upset. So I don't know.
Well, yeah, because the Italian mob, that cargo is being moved through their docks, right?
Right.
Arms to the Russian mob.
Right.
And the Russian mob, the leader of it just got, eventually is going to be killed. We're not there yet. And a bunch of other guys. So the Russian mob would assume that the Italian mob had something to do with it and would probably be looking for him.
Yeah, you'd think this would be start a huge war.
Yes. I think that might actually be an interesting movie. The blowback from the mob factions in Eraser.
That wouldn't be too bad. I think doesn't the head of the Russian mob die there? Isn't he one of those 5 that gets killed by those guys?
Is he one? Okay, maybe.
I think he is.
Oh, yeah, no, you're right. He
and Sven died side by side.
He and Sven died side by side. You're right. I'm sorry.
So this fist fight between James Caan and Arnold Schwarzenegger
on a cargo container.
On a cargo container that's being lifted up and moved around on a crane.
That phrase. So if you would have told me that fist fight between Arnold Schwarzenegger and James Caan on a cargo container with Vanessa Williams, it seems like you just took a bunch of random names and scene ideas, threw them into a bag, mixed it up, and pulled it out.
You spun the wheel of it's like that
the skit you told me about on Saturday Night Live. You spin the wheel and you have to come up with a story.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. James Caan, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Vanessa Williams, an action movie about rail guns. Go! Got to pitch the movie. Yeah, this fight, I don't know. Like, you got to have the bad guy face the good guy, but it's funny because I feel like James Caan seems like he's a lot older than Arnold, but he's actually not. But
I would have thought he was. It's interesting.
Arnold's 49 in this movie, which is
he is much older than I thought he was. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. And James Caan was 56, but still, I mean, obviously, regardless of their biological age, they shouldn't have even bothered to have a fist fight between these two guys because James Caan is not. Even if you presume that Arnold's character is badly injured, etc. It's not. You're not going to have. No one wants to see Arnold Schwarzenegger beat up James Caan.
No, and it's interesting because now I'm just thinking to our one where I think that the villain and the reason why it's one of our favorites, Last Action Hero, Benedict is a great villain. He's smart, but they don't have that, right? They have them showdown together, right? But it's with guns. I mean, that's what Benedict is. And
it would be like in The Running Man if he had a fist fight with Richard Dawson. You know what I mean? Like, don't even bother. Like, it would be a ridiculous thing to do.
No,
this isn't that ridiculous, but it's in that general area of just like, why even have them fight?
No, and so basically it ends. The container gets destroyed. A giant door winds up on James Caan's character, and then in the next scene, he's not only is he alive. Well, you've got where Arnold lifts the door up for him just to show, again, how strong Arnold is, which I actually kind of like.
Yeah, James Caan still pulls the gun.
Yeah, he tries to be sneaky. It's like, why just leave him there? Why is he trying to help him? But whatever.
He's a nice guy. He's a hero.
You're right. But the next scene, not only has Caan's character survived, he just needs a cane to get around. His legs haven't been crushed by this giant container door.
Yeah, you'd think he'd be in way worse shape than he is.
So what I took it as is maybe it's fair. You've had it where Arnold's had multiple stab wounds, a gunshot wound. He's not limping at all, so they're both indestructible. I guess it's fair.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, it's weird because this whole action sequence almost seems to have no impact on the story because the next scene is they're at the courthouse and they're still like, oh, we'll just kill her. We'll still try to kill her, and if we can kill her, we'll still be okay. Right. Like, they're basically saying like none of that mattered. Like, we'll be fine. We'll just kill Vanessa.
We lost one customer. We'll just go back and start selling to somebody else.
Yeah, and so
what you have is they're on the courthouse steps. What I wanted to know, I don't know if you have it, but James Coburn at 1:49:53 comes on screen and just has a James Coburn smile, huge ear to ear smile, but it makes no sense. It's like they want. We want James Coburn in this scene, and man, just smile. And it's a great smile, but I just laughed because it's so nonsensical why it's in the movie.
What was this time code? I thought I had
1:49:53.
That's on Amazon. That's the credits. I don't know.
Oh well, yeah, I was on the DVD. Sorry. Well, anyway, but James Coburn just shows up and he smiles.
Well, he's happy. He's like, you did a good job, Arnold. He's.
I guess.
It's just, James Coburn, he's a charming guy. They wanted him to charm his way out of the movie. Although his last shot is him reacting to that van exploding. So the van explodes.
Right.
And I think that,
so after the smile, then he reacts to the van exploding.
And he's, I guess, left to think that his best operative is now dead. And
yes.
He doesn't seem like he's in on that plan. He's very surprised. But yeah, another ninja move.
Yes.
The van explodes, but no, the two of them have snuck down a manhole.
And if you look, the manhole is not there before. If you look at the street underneath that van where they had it parked, it's not there.
Right. And also, how did they cut a hole in the bottom of the van, I guess? I don't even know.
It's a ninja move.
So all the bad guys think that she's dead. And
yes, there's some evil plotting in the limo, another limo meeting.
But oh no, there's a twist.
Yes, there's one of those, I thought you did it. No, I thought you did it.
Nope, Johnny's in the front.
Johnny's in the front. Johnny's useful. Again, for a witness who, probably should be staying in witness protection, he's been breaking cover many times.
Yeah, and so he parks the limo on the train tracks, and
you got the line, "You've just been erased."
Yep, he calls him up. He has to call him up and gloat, which is kind of funny. He can't just kill him.
No.
He's got to call and gloat about it.
Yes.
You've just been erased.
And you finally get a pun.
At the buzzer. The buzzer beater pun. Like, it was very close to not happening, but nope. What happened?
They caught a train.
Credits. It's great. I think maybe they had to catch a train is a better pun. I don't know. Maybe.
I think that would have been a better line.
They caught a train. This feels very blunt. It's not.
And what I want to know is why? How would Lee not know? I mean, I don't know if you know this or not, but a train hitting an automobile makes some loud noise.
Yeah.
And you hear the train going, giving the whistle like you need to get off the tracks.
Yeah. They need to set up their one pun. So that's it. That's Eraser.
That is. So I covered a little bit on 96 and Arnold's career, and my thoughts on why it took a turn, I think, from here, because this was his last kind of non-Terminator hit. But I also wanted to cover some of the other stuff in 96, because Arnold still, had box office cachet, but kind of the other of his contemporaries, they were really starting to wane. And I pulled up some of the other action movies in 96.
Okay.
And so just wanted to cover them quickly. You had, not all of them are his contemporaries, but just action movies. We had Broken Arrow, Executive Decision, which is kind of Seagal, but anybody who's watched it, Seagal disappears really quickly in that movie. So it was a hit and a good movie, but not because of him.
They sold it as a Steven Seagal movie, but it's a Kurt Russell.
It's a Kurt Russell movie.
Yeah.
So here's where we get some good ones. The Quest with Jean-Claude Van Damme and Roger Moore. I've never seen it, but I kind of want to.
I've never even heard of that.
Yeah. I just had to look.
Yeah.
So as I remember, it sounds like a really bad one.
Wow.
Barbed Wire with Pam Anderson.
Yeah.
As I noted, Twister and Mission Impossible. So those were kind of the genre changing where the Mission Impossible franchise is established.
Yeah.
And Twister gets that beginnings of the disaster kind of movies going. The Phantom with Billy Zane.
Wow, yes.
So then main reason I was looking is I wanted to see what came out around Eraser, because it was a hit. The Rock came out a couple of weeks, 2 weeks before Eraser. And The Rock is an action movie. I hate to admit I like a Michael Bay movie, but I do like The Rock. The Rock is one of my favorite action movies.
Credits where it's due. That's a great movie.
It is a great action movie. And then shortly after Eraser, Independence Day, which Independence Day was earth-shattering. I didn't mean that. Add another pun to the count.
An accidental pun.
Accidental pun.
There it is.
But it was game-changing in two ways. One, I think CGI, it really was a game-changer. Yeah. And in particular, it's the first movie, I haven't looked this up to confirm, but the first movie I ever remember advertising during the Super Bowl. It was a huge deal.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't remember anyone before it, so I'm going to stand by that it was the first movie to advertise during the Super Bowl. Now, today, movies do it all the time, but that was unheard of at that time, to advertise a movie and spend, however much it was. It had to be $1 million at least to advertise a movie. That was an outrageous amount of money.
Oh, no question in my mind, it's one of the greatest marketing campaigns for a movie ever. Because that movie is okay. It's not great. It's not terrible either. It's okay.
No, but you want to talk about great? It ended on the greatest shot it could have: the White House being destroyed, CGI.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I wonder if people, even like young people now, know how much hype there was around a movie that it wasn't an existing franchise; it was an entirely new thing, and people were so excited for that movie, and it was only because of the ads and because of like you said, the Super Bowl commercial,
and other marketing, but that in particular. That you want to talk about getting a trailer right. They advertise it during the Super Bowl, and they end with the White House being destroyed.
Perfect. It was a perfect ad campaign. I can't remember any other like original movie, like a non-adaptation of a comic book or whatever, non-sequel, being that hyped up. I mean, people were going out of their minds. I remember I saw it like midnight opening day, and it was like, What's Independence Day? We didn't even know what it was. What it was. I mean, we knew it was about the White House being blown up. That's about all we knew.
You didn't.
It was enough.
Yeah, and they didn't reveal, other than they revealed some of the great action shots, they didn't reveal anything else about it.
Yeah, very little.
And to be honest with that movie, it was probably good, because really the movie isn't that good.
Yeah, and the Matrix kind of ran that same playbook when that came out, if you remember. It was just what is the Matrix. Didn't reveal a lot about it. And that's as close. If anything came close to Independence Day, it was that.
It was the Matrix, which is 30 years later in 99.
Yeah, people were really excited, what's the Matrix? And it kind of got really hyped up. It's interesting that they don't use that plan as much now as they used to.
No. So
I guess Cloverfield was similar, but whatever.
So the fact that Eraser was still a top 10 with a huge movie like Independence Day, a week or a week and a half later, is a testament to, I think, Arnold still had a lot of box office star power in '96. So then, just to kind of finish out, Escape from L.A., Kurt Russell. One of my favorite bad movies. It's not an action movie, but it's a Snipes movie. The Fan came out this year. It is one of my favorite bad movies. I love The Fan with De Niro and Wesley Snipes.
I need to see that. I've never seen it.
Finishing out '96, The Crow, City of Angels, which was the follow-up, the sequel, even though Brandon Lee had died.
Who plays the Crow in that? I've never seen that.
I can't remember. I should, but I can't remember.
Some nobody? Yeah.
It's not some nobody. I actually think it is somebody, but...
Okay.
Last Man Standing, a Bruce Willis action movie, but that's kind of more of a gunfire movie than a true action movie, if you remember. It's with Bruce Dern.
Yeah, I've never seen it, but I remember it.
The Glimmer Man, a true Steven Seagal movie with Keenan Ivory Wayans. What a bad combination that is.
I've not seen that, but it doesn't surprise me at all.
Actually, a good action movie, The Long Kiss Goodnight. It's a Shane Black script with Gina Davis and Samuel L. Jackson. It's underrated. I actually really enjoyed that movie. The last one I had was Daylight, which was kind of an action, but really more disaster movie, and that was a Stallone vehicle. So as you can see, it's kind of Van Damme. He had really... gone off the rails, and his career was basically over. Seagal was really fading.
Yeah, all of them. It's not isolated to Arnold for sure.
No, so what I noticed is that those other lesser stars were fading way faster than Arnold, and then this was kind of Arnold's last hit. And I think some of the reason why he didn't have the star power anymore was those other reasons I noted, is that action movies changed, and it kind of was, they were the fossils, and they were kind of dying out, and the new action movies were coming about.
Yeah, and I think this I'm glad we covered both this and Last Action Hero in our first batch, because I think those are the two. Like, that's Last Action Hero was kind of the beginning of this turn where his career started to fall apart, and then the Eraser. Yeah, it was a hit, but it was still kind of on a downward trajectory. Yep. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So, but better than I remembered. I enjoyed it up to a point. There are things that could have been better, but this Eraser, I wasn't really expecting a whole lot, but it is better than I thought.
It was better than I thought it was, but as we recorded this and as I watched it, I wish it would have committed more to being 1996 Commando, because I think it could have been a lot of fun and a good action movie.
That's for sure.
Because it had a lot of moments. I mean, that final sequence. If they would have just committed to that type of action movie, I think we would have had a lot more fun doing this one.
The kind of movie where his sleeves miraculously burn off from an explosion.
Yes.
That's the kind of movie this whole thing should have been.
Yes.
So that's the movie. So we get to our counts, because obviously only one pun.
One pun. And as you said, at the buzzer.
Yeah, which is very close. Body count of 53.
Wow.
Which is our new champion.
Yes.
It dethroned Last Action Hero.
What is Last Action Hero 52?
At 48.
48.
Yeah, so it's pretty close. But Last Action Hero had a decent run. But considering we didn't expect it to have a high body count,
no,
had a much longer reign than I would have ever expected. So now, we've got Batman and Robin as our pun champion.
Yes,
and this is our body count champion. So we'll see what dethrones it. So that's our show. Tune in next time. We need to pick the next movie first. Then we wrap up.
We're finishing out the season.
Oh yeah, that's why I was like, something doesn't seem right here.
Yeah, so we're finishing out the season. As we've established in earlier episodes, each season is going to end with a Terminator.
Yep, and it's your pick.
It's my pick, and I've gone back and forth on this, on whether we should do them in either order, sequential or reverse order. And I've had a hard time, because there's a lot of things I'd like to do about Terminator Genesis. You and I saw that in theaters, and there are a few things that I can remember that we would really like to discuss in that movie.
Absolutely, but let me make a pitch to you. So, again, this is 100% your pick. I'm simply trying to influence the judge. But I feel there's a certain poetry to the fact that I think the two movies that prompted us to do this podcast were Last Action Hero and the fact that we both love that movie. But really what caused like the critical mass
push over the cliff
was when we saw Terminator Salvation and couldn't stop talking about it.
Salvation Genesis.
Or Terminator Genesis, you're right. Oh, God, not Salvation. We never want to talk about Salvation. No. In fact, we will not.
We won't because he's not in it.
But I feel like Last Action Hero being our first episode, and then if we go in order, in Terminator order, then that would make Terminator Genesis our last episode.
There's a certain poetry, there's symmetry.
Nice bookends there. So I'm just going to... But... If you really want to, I totally understand why you'd be chomping at the bit to want to talk about Genesis.
You know exactly why, because I could spend 30 minutes discussing one line of that.
We already did Genesis. That podcast in the parking lot after the movie.
We just need to recreate that.
We couldn't help but talk about that movie just for at least a half hour. Or something.
Well, it is my pick, and here's the thing: is I was going to say the Terminator anyway, but the symmetry and the poetry. You're right to have it. Genesis probably should be the last episode that we do, at least for the Schwarzenegger movies. And, we may do some other action hero.
Well, sure.
But I agree with you. So we'll do Genesis last. The Terminator will be the next episode.
Okay.
So the movie that made him famous. I mean, he had certainly done stuff we've already watched, Stay Hungry, but the Terminator is really what made him a star.
Absolutely. And I'm glad we're finally getting to the Terminator. We didn't intentionally save it to last. After a while, kind of like, well, we should probably save it to last.
Better to be lucky than good.
Yeah, but that'll be fun. So next episode, we'll discuss the Terminator. So tune in then. Until then, you can follow us on Twitter at Bad Puns Podcast. And if you want to write us an email, you can at questions@bpamg.com. So we've got our new rule.
Yeah, and so
tell us what we've learned today.
I'll give you the rule as well as to remind people to like us on your podcast app of choice, and certainly spread the word and maybe do a better job than we are, at least at this point.
I think eventually we'll get better about this. We'll have some more time to do our own legwork as opposed to relying on all you out there. But yeah, it'd be much appreciated. So anyway,
yeah. So the next rule in the crisis situation, I had earlier alluded to how much I love the cheap mail order piece. Which there was a joke there that I wish they would have worked in for Caan related to Sky Mall, which I'm not sure in 2016 if Sky Mall even exists anymore, but it certainly did in 1996, and that
would have been perfect.
There would have been a great joke, and I wish they would have. So I wanted to make sure that the crisis situation highlighted a missed opportunity, but also I think Caan's best line. So what I learned from this in a crisis situation is that you can bring a knife to a gunfight, and it can be useful. So that is what you need to know, is that even though I think it's in the Untouchables that it's particularly made a point that you shouldn't bring a knife to a gunfight, that is not true in all crisis situations.
That's a fantastic rule.
You should bring a knife to a gunfight.
Arnold brings a knife to a gunfight and wins, so you're absolutely right. All right, so that's the show. Thanks for listening. Tune in next time when we discuss The Terminator. See you then.
Looking forward to it.